Greetings, this is yours truly, Lord Karo, welcome to my domain. My Hero Academia. Nimbus Part 2. Time to reminisce and begin anew. The entire house was silent. Not a noise could be heard. Most likely because the residents were fast asleep. Well, one of them was. Goku was wide awake and staring up at the ceiling from his bed. A lot had happened to him recently. In fact, a lot had happened to him ever since he started at UA High School. He had had multiple encounters with villains, specifically the League of Villains. He had been taught some new techniques which fit perfectly with his quirk. His maximum Kaioken output had risen to X20 and he had manifested a new form, his super state. Not only that, but he had passed his final exams and was now able to go to the summer camp that had been promised by the staff. Then he had received an invitation to Island from the CEO of Capsule Corporation, where he was caught in the middle of a villain attack. During that he had come face to face with his parents' murderer, an individual called Frieza who Goku had been forced to put down. Then he fought alongside his friend Izuku Midoriya and the #1 pro hero, All Might. Life then changed even more dramatically as he now had a roommate. Hummed the blue-haired girl lying next to Goku. She snuggled into his chest and Goku didn't flinch. This was Bulma Briefs, Goku's self-appointed girlfriend. Goku didn't mind being called that and he actually reciprocated her feelings. However, he had only known her a couple of days and didn't want things to move too quickly. She was supposed to be in her own room, but what was happening now had become a sort of routine. The pair would go to bed in their own rooms and then in the middle of the night Goku would suddenly feel Bulma climb into his bed and snuggle into him. This is never gonna stop, is it? Goku thought to himself as he smiled. Things were finally settling down for him at the moment. Tamura Shigaraki, the leader of the League of Villains, hadn't been sighted since his encounter with Goku and Midoriya at a shopping center where Class 1A had gone for a day out. This raised concern amongst society, but for the students at UA life continued. Goku was about to carefully move Bulma off him so he could get dressed and make some breakfast when his phone rang. "Hello?" he asked, picking it up without looking at who the caller was. He smiled as soon as the person on the other end spoke. "Hey Goku, we're all going to the UA pool as Mr. Aizawa said we could. I was wondering if you wanted to tag along?" came the enthusiastic question from one Izuku Midoriya. "Sure Deku. I'm down for that. May as well get in some cardio before the summer camp starts," replied Goku cheerily. "Bulma good to come?" Well Mr. Aizawa said our class, but I'm sure you won't mind," Deku said nervously before giving a small chuckle. Not that he could stop her from coming. "Yeah, I'll give you that. Anyway, I'll meet you guys there," said Goku and the call ended. He finished his breakfast and began to pack a gym bag with his swimming gear. Just as he finished zipping it up he heard a voice ring throughout the house. "Where do you think you're going?" interrogated Bulma, who had woken up to find her, knight without shining armor, out of bed. Goku slowly turned around, mostly in fear at what she would do, and gave a small yet nervous laugh. "Well, I'm going down to the UA pool with the rest of my class. You're welcome to come," he carefully explained. Bulma smirked, and before Goku could even comprehend what had happened she had changed, got her swim gear on under her clothes and had done her hair. "Alright, I'm ready to go," she said calmly and walked past Goku, who was still shocked by what had transpired. He snapped out of his daze and shook his head. "Should have expected that, really," he shrugged before opening the door for the pair to leave. Bulma left the house first and Goku followed after her. He locked the door and placed the key in his bag. The walk to UA wasn't particularly a long one and they arrived in no time. The two split off to go to their respective changing rooms. It was here that Goku met up with the boys from his class. "Sup guys," he cheerily exclaimed before being placed in a headlock by Eijiro Kirishima. "Goku my man, good to see you bro," Kirishima exclaimed. "It is very good to see you Goku. Glad you could make it." Goku looked up to see Tenya Iida greeting him. Shrugging off Kirishima's arm in jest he greeted Iida and the rest of the boys besides one. "Goku, how you doing bud?" asked Denki Kaminari to his friend. Goku gave a thumbs up. "Not bad man. You?" he replied. "Pretty good. Excited for the summer camp. Wait a minute. Is Bulma here?" Kaminari asked worriedly and Goku looked confused. "Yeah, what's the problem? Oh right. Mineta," Goku suddenly realized before looking down to see the purple-haired midget getting a bit too excited to go to the pool. "Mineta, I'm gonna say this once. Stay away from Bulma," Goku threatened, catching the boys' attention. Everyone saw Goku momentarily transform into his super state just to get his point across before returning to his base form. "Ugh, gotcha," gulped Mineta in fear before moving away from Goku slightly. The class slightly laughed. "HMPH. Not bad. Pretty efficient method actually," came the surprising compliment from Katsuki Bakugo, Class 1A's very own explosive hothead. "Wow, you complimented me? Thanks so much," Goku sarcastically replied, but Bakugo didn't budge. "I meant it. Good job. Just take the compliment idiot," Bakugo remarked, and Goku generally looked surprised. Ever since the sports festival, Goku had had a grudge with Bakugo as the latter was the reason he had first access to Super State. "In fact, can I have a chat in private?" Bakugo asked, which caught the entire changing room of boys off guard. Yeah sure," Goku replied, unsure of what to do. Bakugo nodded and walked away with Goku following him. The boys gave a "good luck" expression before making their way to the pool. Eventually the two rivals stopped in a secluded spot. They stared at each other. Goku broke the ice. "So what did you want to talk about?" he asked, and Bakugo looked him dead in the eyes. "It's about the sports festival," he simply replied, and Goku's body slightly tense. "Don't worry, I'm not gonna make the bad blood between us worse. I was thinking about the way you've been acting around me and the way others have been trying to keep us apart. I figured it out, he remarked. Figured what out? Goku's eyes narrowed when he asked the questions, but Bakugo didn't react. What I said about your family. I was trying to goad you once so that I could beat you at your game. However, I made the situation way worse and pushed you over the edge. So I wanted to say I'm sore. Bakugo began to heave slightly while trying to say one key word. You're sorry? You think you get to go that far and just say you're sorry? Goku's rage bubbled. Hey, don't get the wrong idea. I've never apologized to anyone before. I nearly threw up trying to say that, Bakugo defended. Oh, and that makes everything better, does it? Goku was getting more frustrated by the second, but Bakugo's lack of anger in this moment was speaking volumes. He just refused to acknowledge it. Don't try to act better than me, especially after you killed someone, Bakugo suddenly said, and Goku's eyes widened in shock. What? How did you? He stammered, and Bakugo looked off to the side. When you glared at me at Island, I could just tell. You laughed and smiled, but your eyes showed a different story. From what I could tell, your family business was you fighting your family's murderer, and you showed him some semblance of mercy. He hated that, attacked you, and you were forced to end him. Am I wrong? He asked, and Goku seemed shaken at the prospect of Bakugo knowing all this. That bastard deserved to die, he muttered. Maybe, but you gave him the chance to live and he rejected it. His fault, shrugged Bakugo nonchalantly. Goku looked at him before giving a small smile. And from your behavior, I'm assuming that you kept this to yourself? He asked. Yeah, not my business honestly. Besides, it's the least I could do after everything, he replied. Everything about him screamed genuine, and Goku finally saw this. Apology accepted, he sighed, and Bakugo seemed somewhat surprised by the outcome. But let's get some things straight. Go on, Bakugo pried. I'm calling you Bakugo. You deserve the use of your name without spite. But you call me Goku. Not Kakarot. Don't even say that name. You don't deserve to. Goku set down the ground rules. Fair enough, Bakugo shrugged. I'm not finished yet. Secondly, this is a secret, but only my parents were murdered by this guy. I had an older brother, Goku revealed, and Bakugo seemed curious. What happened to him? He asked, and Goku turned his head away. Doesn't matter. I'm not even sure if he's still alive. Regardless, I don't want him mentioned. Now on to the final thing. We aren't friends, but we are to keep things civil. Understood? Goku finished, and Bakugo nodded. Whatever. Not like I really want to be friends with you extras, he said as he walked away and made his way to the pool. Maybe, just maybe, Goku smiled slightly before making his way to the pool as well. He walked out into the open and was greeted by all the boys having competitive laps in the pool. Goku heard laughing and squealing and looked to his right to see all the girls in their swimming costumes playing around. He also noticed some of them staring at the boys. What Goku found humorous was that Ochako Uraraka was staring right at Deku while the other girls were admiring them all. Of course Mineta was doing the same thing but at the girls, yet he was surprisingly docile. Goku caught Bulma's eye contact and waved. She blew him a kiss and he just rolled his eyes in amusement before smiling. Alright then Goku. You're up next, said Iida, and Goku nodded before taking his place at one of the lanes. His opponents were Kaminari, Mineta, and Shoji. The four got into diving positions, and since they were on UA grounds, quirk usage was permitted. On your marks. Get set. Go, Iida shouted, and the race began. Unsurprisingly, Goku came first simply by swimming rather than flying. He figured that if this activity was all about endurance training, then he should actually use the pool for what it was designed for. Damn Goku. You're relentless, heaved Kaminari as he attempted to catch his breath. Congratulations Goku, said Shoji, and Goku nodded. Thanks Shoji. You too for coming in second. He returned the compliment and Shoji's eyes showed appreciation. Alright then, time for the final race everyone. The contestants will be Midoriya, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Goku. Racers, take your positions, announced Iida, and the girls had stopped what they were doing and were beginning to cheer on the four boys. You guys have got no chance against Goku, Bulma cried a little too arrogantly, earning some looks from Class 1A. What, they haven't? Goku powered up into his super state. He wasn't going to fly, but he could still have a blast. The downside of this was that due to the form making his muscles more defined, Bulma was struggling to get a look as the majority of the girls were staring in awe. Begin, declared Momo instead of Iida this time, and as the four contestants leapt to their starting positions a familiar voice appeared. Time's up. Leave the pool and go home, said Aizawa, who sounded annoyed. All at once Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Goku screwed up their dives and fell face first into the water. When they all appeared above the water's surface, they looked at Aizawa, who seemed unimpressed by their poor time management. They reluctantly left the pool and Goku powered down. His hair, which was soaking wet, returned to its original state so quickly that everyone slightly jumped in surprise. Geez Goku. I wish I had hair like that. It would come in handy, said Kirishima, and Goku chuckled. Once all things were in order, all people present returned to their respective changing rooms and got changed, before meeting out the front of the pool. Bulma immediately linked up with Goku, who noticed the grimace on Kyokajiro's face. She turned away and walked off to catch up with Momo. Huh? I should probably talk to her at the summer camp, Goku determined. He and Bulma were about to leave when Aizawa called out to them. Goku, Bulma came here, he demanded unenthusiastically. The two nervously did as asked. What is it, Mr. Aizawa? Goku asked, and Aizawa looked at them before pinching his nose. Briefs, you can't come on the summer camp, he sighed. Bulma didn't take this very well. What do you mean? Of course I can, she yelled in anger, and Goku began to cower in fear. Aizawa seemed unfazed. No you can't. It's for the hero course only and like it or not you are in the support course. It'll only be a week and you can have Goku back. That being said, relationships are forbidden here at UA. Getting in a relationship with a hero or as a hero can lead to consequences and the partner being made a target of a villain attack. When you're older it will be less problematic, but for now I don't want to hear anything about you two, he commanded. We're not in a relationship, Mr. Aizawa. Goku sighed and Bulma looked at him with mock shock. Of course we are. We even kissed during the island incident. That proves our love, she teased and Goku gave a small laugh. Alright, that's enough. Reefs, you're not going on the summer camp and that's final, Aizawa said and Bulma sighed. Fine. I guess I'll just work on your gear for you Goku while you're gone, she turned to the boy in question. Thanks Bulma, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Nothing will happen, he cheerily replied and Bulma smiled. Alright, get home. I expect to see you first thing tomorrow morning Goku. Don't forget to bring a change of clothes and essentials, Aizawa reminded and the pair bid farewell. They arrived back at their shared house and began to hang their swimwear up to dry before sitting down on the sofa. Bulma put the TV on and huddled next to Goku who put his arm around her. Soon Bulma's soft breathing began, an indication of her being asleep. Goku turned off the TV, picked her up bridal style and took her to her room. He removed her shoes and socks and placed her in her bed before planting a light kiss on her forehead. He gently closed the door as he left and got to work packing his bags for the summer camp that lay ahead. This will be fun. I wonder what it will have in store for us. What if there's a villain attack? No, you can't think like that Goku. Everything will be fine. Enjoy yourself. He had a quiet conversation with himself. Once his packing was complete he laid out his school uniform for the next day, got changed into something more comfortable and proceeded to get into bed. He soon dozed off to sleep, excited for the week ahead. Location unknown. Wild Pussycats. The bus came to a sudden halt and everyone in Class 1A proceeded to get off for a restroom break. Their summer camp had started off well and they were all excited for whatever activities awaited them. Goku especially. Alright, halfway there, he exclaimed and the rest of his class cheered in agreement. Don't get too excited just yet, said Aizawa and the class looked at him curiously. Then out of nowhere two women strolled up to the class with a young boy in tow. The two women were clearly pro-heroes and appeared to be dressed like cats. Mr. Aizawa. Who are they? Asked Kaminari and the two introduced themselves. I'm Mandalay, cried the one in red, and I'm Pixie Bob, cried the one in blue. We are the wild Pussycats, they announced as they struck cat poses. Class 1A said nothing and were unresponsive, probably from how humiliating the poses were. Deku spoke first. Oh, the wild Pussycats, that hero group, he realized. Haven't they been around like 13 years or so? Asked Goku as he held his chin and looked at the sky and thought. This comment didn't bode well with the two feline heroines, especially with Pixie Bob. How dare you? I'm young at heart, she cried in annoyance as she pounced at Goku who simply stepped out of the way in confusion. Everyone was visibly shocked at Goku's nonchalant behavior. He on the other hand was completely lost. What? All I did was move out of the way, he said and Pixie Bob stood up straight. Guess all those times Bulma's hit your head are having an effect, Goku? Laughed Kirishima and Goku just scratched his head. This is moving too slowly. Pixie Bob, have fun? Commented Mandalay cheekily and a grin appeared on Pixie Bob's face. A somewhat sadistic grin which made Class 1A slowly back up to the edge of the cliff they were standing on. They made sure to stop before they tumbled over the edge. You see this surrounding area? This is private land owned by me, so you're welcome to use your quirks. That clearing behind you in the distance is where you have to get to if you want lunch. See you then, Mandalay revealed. We've been set up. Make for the bus, cried Kirishima, but it was too late. The ground beneath their feet crumbled and the entire class fell into the woods below. Brushing themselves off they stood up and some attempted to climb back up. Well, I guess we better make our way for that clearing. Let's go 1A, announced Iida and he led the way. It wasn't long before the ground began to shake and trees were torn down. Goku was struggling to keep his balance when he heard the roar. His eyes darted around the area and finally locked on a behemoth charging at him and his class. It smashed through the trees and Goku's flight aura barely kicked in. Goku managed to get out of the way and landed beside Deku who was trying to comprehend what was going on. So one of the hero's quirks? Goku asked and Deku nodded. Pixie Bob's. Earth Flow, he replied and Goku's golden aura flashed to life. He and Deku stood back to back as more of the rock Goliaths appeared. Well, this is already turning into an interesting summer camp, Goku admitted as Deku's sparks of green from his quirk appeared. The two of them launched towards the closest Goliath and got to work dismantling it. Goku took out its legs and when it toppled to the ground Deku leapt into the air before landing a blow on its head. The creature crumbled to dust and the two attackers looked at each other with a victorious smile. A little help, cried Jiro as she became surrounded by the creatures. Goku turned to Deku who simply nodded. Go help her. I'll help the others, he said and, in a flash, sped off towards Bakugo, Todoroki, Iida and the others who were grouped up. Goku blasted towards Jiro and scooped her off her feet as one of the creatures attacked. You sure took your time, Jiro joked and Goku smiled. He landed and placed Jiro on the ground before turning around and firing a couple of key blasts at the creatures. The blasts hit their mark on each head and like before they crumbled to dust. So what's up with you then, Jiro? Why you been acting weird lately? Goku asked and Jiro was slightly taken aback by the question. As she went to reply she spotted a creature charging towards Goku who had his back to it. Goku, look out, she warned as she pushed the currently blonde-haired boy out of the way and took the attack. She was sent flying backwards, in pain but still awake. Goku's eyes widened in concern before narrowing in anger and he rushed the creature. He didn't care if this was Pixie Bob's doing, all he wanted was to get payback. The creature swung at him but he dodged to the side before taking out its front left leg. The creature toppled that way and due to his positioning Goku was about to be flattened. His instincts kicked in and instead of quickly dodging he blasted a hole through the creature's torso and appeared the other side. The beast was finished and Goku realized what his main concern was. As soon as he got to Jiro he checked for any serious wounds before helping the heroine in training to her feet. "Sorry Jiro. I let my guard down. My bad," he apologized but Jiro just laughed. "Don't worry about it. Got my joints all warmed up," she joked before playfully punching Goku in the arm. Although he didn't flinch he did still laugh and he wrapped his arm around her shoulder for a friendly hug. She slightly blushed at the sudden move but began laughing again when Goku nearly lost his balance. "Hey guys, quit the flirting and let's go. You want lunch don't you?" shouted Kaminari and the two friends looked at him in annoyance. They both rolled their eyes, separated and made their way towards the rest of their class. "Alright class 1A. This is it. Let's show Mr. Aizawa and the Pussycats when we're made off. Let's make for the rendezvous point," announced Iida and the class cheered in response before they all made off in the direction of the intended destination. Sometime later, the sun was setting by the time class 1A arrived at where Aizawa, Mandalay and Pixie Bob were waiting. It was clear they were exhausted. Goku was being helped along by Jiro and Kirishima. His stamina and energy had been sapped due to his constant use of his super state for the last couple of hours. He was taking all the strength he could muster to stay awake. "Oh going down," he muttered as his legs finally gave way. His two helpers were too slow to react and Goku fell face first onto the ground. At least his body was numb all over so he couldn't really feel the pain. "I'm just gonna lay here a while," came his muffled voice and it wasn't long before other members of class 1A fell to the ground to catch their breath. "Wow, you took longer than we thought so you missed lunch. Congratulations though. You exceeded our expectations and therefore you get to have dinner." Pixie Bob, Mandalay was focused on her teammate who had taken a keen interest in 5 students. Deku, Iida, Todoroki, Bakugo and Goku to be exact. "Don't worry, I'll take care of these kittens." She pounced at the 5 with the only 4 on their feet being able to somewhat defend themselves. Goku wasn't as lucky. He couldn't move and this wasn't the best situation to be in at the moment. "Great. A cat-themed hero in heat. What is my life coming to?" he muttered again as Pixie Bob turned her attention to him. However, as she approached Jiro got in the way. "I wouldn't if I was you. He's got someone back home who will fight you and will probably beat you regardless of if you're a pro," she admitted. Pixie Bob sulked and returned to the other 4 boys. "Thanks Jiro," Goku said and Jiro smiled although he couldn't see it. Excuse me. Who's that boy?" asked Deku as he pointed to the same boy who had been present at the drop-off point earlier. "Oh that's my nephew Kota. He's staying with me at the moment." "Say hi Kota," she answered and Deku walked up to him before leaning down slightly with his hand held out. "Hi, I'm Izuku Midoriya. I'm a first-year student at UA. It's a pleasure to meet you," he said sincerely only for Kota to throw the lowest blow imaginable. Deku's face and posture immediately screamed agony and Kota walked off with little care. Bakugo was somewhat impressed. "Midoriya, you fiend of a child. A punch to the scrotum is unforgivable," reprimanded Iida as he cradled Midoriya. Mandalay watched Kota walk off with shock and confusion. "That's enough. Freshen up. Dinner will be ready later," commanded Aizawa and the class moved on. Deku was helped to his feet and practically carried by Iida while Kirishima and Kaminari hoisted Goku off the ground. Once everyone was good to go they made their way to where dinner was being held. The food was piping hot and there was a massive variety, then came a sudden cry. "Quick! Everyone eat as much as you can before Goku can start tucking in," laughed Jiro and the class did just that. Goku was comically dropped by Kirishima and Kaminari while Momo who had been walking next to him covered her mouth in surprise and then began to laugh before making her way to a seat. "Not fair, Jiro," Goku managed to say as he began to use all his available strength to pull himself to one of the tables. Placing his arms on the seat he pushed himself up and shakily got to his feet. He quickly sat down before his legs gave way and he picked up some cutlery as well as a plate. He took a plate full of the food which was steadily disappearing by the minute. Time to get back in the game, he gave a small laugh before he began to eat. The first plate went at normal eating speed for someone who wasn't Goku. But then the speed increased. The food was disappearing and his class was struggling to stuff themselves before he caught up. Eventually after some humorous events transpired the rest of the class was full. Goku kept on going and in the time it had taken him to start eating he already had more than double the plates piled up than anyone else. He finally finished and gave a massive burp which he embarrassedly apologized for. "Alright then now that Goku's eaten I think we should all go to our rooms and enter the hot springs for a relaxing time." Iida suggested and the class did just that. The boys went to theirs and the girls to theirs. Goku slipped into the hot spring and sighed. He could finally relax. "Geez Goku. Some food and you're already back on your feet," commented Kaminari but Goku just smiled. He was enjoying the hot springs as was everyone else. Although there was one problem. Mineta was being Mineta and the boys were desperately trying to stop him. As Iida walked over to stop him Mineta began to use his quirk to climb the wall that separated the boys and girls. Goku glanced up at him, rolled his eyes and prepared to fire a mini-ki blast to knock him back down. Someone beat him to it as Kota suddenly appeared at the top. Before you become a hero, you should learn to be a better person, was his snarky remark before he hit Mineta's hand, causing the midget to fall. He lost his towel on the way and just before he landed on Iida's face he shouted one thing. I'll get you for this. Iida, slightly humiliated, reprimanded him and everyone was quick to avert their eyes from the naked Mineta. Then the girls thanked Kota and surprised he fell backwards. Deku lunged forward catching him midair before landing. Kota was unconscious, probably from shock. I'm going to take him to Mandalay, he announced and left the hot springs. Goku was concerned for the young boy but ultimately decided that he was in good hands. Content with the current situation he closed his eyes and darkness swept over him. He could sleep a little while. The others would wake him before they left. That he was sure of. Time for some fun and rest. Location unknown. It's ready. Good. Send it with Shigaraki. The mission's probability of success will increase. The DNA that compiles it is extraordinary, it can't possibly lose. We shall see. Master, one last thing, what is it? It has shown intelligence that no other Nomu has. It can communicate with us and has access to multiple languages. That's a problem. How? It may rebel. Good. Unpredictability is better. Besides, restraints will be problematic should it decide to go up against him. I understand. It has also given itself a name, and what did it call itself? It dubbed itself Cell, Endurance Training. You want me to what? Goku was currently trying to comprehend what had been asked of him. Turned out this summer camp was to hone their quirks and push them past their limits while also finding new ways for them to work. You heard me. You're to stay in that form of yours indefinitely, commanded the pro-hero Tiger, another of the pussycats. He was currently overseeing the training of both Goku and Deku. Deku was doing exercises most likely to strengthen his muscles, at least that's what Goku assumed. But my strength will be completely sapped. I'll drop out if I stay in it too long, Goku replied, but Tiger was having none of it. You want to become a pro, right? Then do as you are told. If you can't get around this obstacle, you'll never be successful, he reprimanded and Goku sighed in defeat. Fine. I'll do it, he said before he transformed into his super state. If this was going to be his training, then he had to go all out. So, other than being able to stay in this form indefinitely, what is the aim here? He asked, and Tiger looked disappointed in him. Isn't it obvious? The higher your power output, the more energy you consume, so in minimizing the energy consumption to practically nothing you will be able to access the full power of this form with no consequences, explained the pro before he turned his back on and brought his attention to an exhausted Deku. Huh. Good point, Goku admitted before realizing he hadn't been asked to do anything other than this endurance training. Tiger sir? What do I do now? He asked nervously. Go to a secluded spot and use your quirk. Tiger didn't turn and Goku did as told with little question. He found an open area away from the rest of his class and cupped his hands by his side. Ka. Me. Ha. Me, he chanted as the blue energy materialized between his hands. Ha. It shot out and blitzed its way through the woods. Trees were either obliterated or toppled to the ground. The ground shook violently from the force of the beam but soon came to a halt as the Kamehameha dissipated. Goku dropped his arms and stood up straight with a smirk before his expression soured. Oh wow. That was weaker than all the others you've done. It's almost as if you get weaker the more you fight, came the grating voice of Monoma, who followed up with his signature laugh. Goku simply turned around to face him. I forgot Class 1B was gonna be here. I can't handle a week with him, he thought to himself before an idea popped into his head. Hey Monoma. Copy my quirk and we'll see how well you do, he challenged and Monoma stopped his laughter. Initially taken aback by the challenge, his face changed to show a smug expression. He made his way over to Goku and temporarily copied his quirk by touching Goku on his shoulder. You sure this is a good idea, Monoma? Goku's mastered the technique? Itsuka Kendo suddenly chimed in. It seemed that she had followed Monoma to keep him in check. Ha, whatever that 1A show-off can do I can do way better, he said a little too confidently. He took the same position as Goku and began to charge his own Kamehameha. Ka. Me. Ha. His voice cracked as he fired the smallest Kamehameha ever. In fact, it was so weak it just sort of fizzled out moments after it was launched. Monoma looked humiliated, Kendo had a look of, told you so, and Goku was laughing his head off. That was pathetic. You even chanted it wrong. What the hell is a Kamikameha? His laughter got louder and as Monoma went to make a snide comment he went limp. Kendo had fulfilled her purpose for following him. Sorry about that, Goku. He really can't take a hint. Though got to admit it was rather funny to see him taking down a peg, she chuckled before waving to Goku as she dragged Monoma away. Goku waved back. Despite the stamina drain, he was having fun and was feeling rather happy. A red outline momentarily showed on his body before disappearing. Goku hadn't noticed. He turned around and continued his training. More Kamehameha waves were fired as well as him testing out some new moves. He was gradually becoming exhausted, but he didn't let that deter him. He pushed on until the sun began to set. Alright, last one for today, he decided as he prepared for a final Kamehameha. Ka, me, ha, me, he chanted, and the ball of blue energy was even bigger than before. Ha, he roared and the biggest Kamehameha he had ever performed was fired. The ground shook more violently than ever, and the energy wave kept on going. That was when Goku noticed an oversight on his behalf. He hadn't taken into account his own power and therefore the energy wave was rocketing towards where the rest of 1A and 1B were training. Crap, Goku exclaimed and flew after the energy wave. He tapped into his energy reserves to speed past it as it arrived at the crowded area. It was heading straight for Uraraka, who appeared to have finished her training for the day. Look out, Goku cried in panic before everyone scrambled to move out of the way. Deku acted fast but not fast enough, and Uraraka was so nauseous from her quirk training that she could do little but stumble. Goku sped past the attack, landed in front of Uraraka and held both hands out to catch the attack. The beam made impact and Goku was pushed back slightly. Deku took this opportunity to leap to Uraraka and pull her out of harm's way. RRRRAAAAGGHHH. Goku struggled to hold the attack before using all his remaining strength to change the beam's trajectory. He essentially threw it skyward, where after clearing the woods it finally dissipated. Goku sighed in relief before sitting down to catch his breath. He had begun to flicker in and out of his super state, a fact which Tiger wasn't about to let happen. Impressive work. But you're not dropping out of that form yet. You're to stay in it all week, he revealed, and Goku looked at him with a pleading look on his face. Tiger ignored it and Goku forced himself to remain in his super state.
Alright gang, that's all for today. Go make yourselves some dinner. Mandalay congratulated them, and they did just that. Goku suddenly sensed some key signatures nearby, but due to being hungry and exhausted shrugged it off. They were probably civilians. He followed the rest of his class.
Nearby, 10 figures were teleported onto a nearby cliff face. All came in different shapes and sizes and each had their own unique quirk. You know the plan. Get the young man and get out, said the magician-looking figure. Yeah, compress. And if any heroes get in the way we kill them, sadistically replied the tallest man who appeared to have a fake eye. No, we only kill those that are fake heroes like Stainwood, argued the lizard man who had a similar get-up to the hero killer. The tall man scoffed. Who cares what happens? Let's get this done, commented the heavily scarred figure with jet black hair. I can't wait, this will be fun, exclaimed what appeared to be a blonde-haired high school girl. Yeah, totally, I doubt it, agreed a fully costumed man who spoke as if he were two separate people. Enough. We carry out the plan at dark, said the magician, and they finally agreed. One figure though seemed more interested in something else. A cold and calculating smile appeared on his face. Can't wait to meet you, Dad, he said, the dining area. Wow, Goku. You're really talented when it comes to cooking. You too, Bakugo. It's weird, remarked a surprised Uraraka who was back on her feet after the day's events. The sun had gone down and everyone was keeping busy. What do you mean it's weird? Why are you all so bad at everything? Questioned an annoyed Bakugo. Goku just smiled. Kinda had to learn after living alone for so long, he admitted. Although everyone was pitching in regards to the meal, Goku and Bakugo had agreed to deal with peeling and cutting the ingredients. Bakugo was surprisingly quick and Goku's own speed had increased due to being in his super state. Not bad, Bakugo, but I think I'm winning, Goku teased. Like hell you are, I've done way more, retorted an irritated Bakugo. It was actually a pleasing sight to see. The two were on way better terms, and although they still weren't friends, Goku could see that changing at some point in the future. He had never wanted to hate his classmates and was glad that Bakugo, yes Bakugo, had put an end to their feud simply by apologizing. Oh, come on, don't lie to yourself. Goku laughed as the mini-competition continued. Through it all he managed to see Bakugo smirk and seemed somewhat appreciated at someone having no qualms competing against him. Damn you, Blondie, I'll show you, replied the now extremely competitive Bakugo. Hey, that's my line, laughed Goku before he got back to work preparing the food. Eventually, after the food was all cooked, thanks to Momo and Todoroki, everyone sat down to eat. Great work, team, especially Bakugo and Goku. Your little competition allowed us to make more food than we actually needed, meaning people can have seconds, congratulated Iida. Hey, we didn't make all the food for that reason. You forgetting who helped me? Smirked Bakugo, and the sudden realization of Goku eating swept over everyone. Goku, sitting next to Jiro and Bakugo, had ignored all the talk and was in the process of working through multiple helpings of the curry he had helped cook. Everyone scrambled to eat their share before it was all gone. That was delicious, remarked Kirishima. Yeah, well worth all the training, agreed Jiro. Hear that, Bakugo? Our cooking prowess blew them away, joked Goku, who had finally finished eating. No chance it wouldn't, you idiot, Bakugo agreed with a smirk before the pair fist bumped when no one was noticing. Note to self. Bakugo can definitely be considered a friend of sorts. Almost there, thought Goku triumphantly. Alright gang. You've eaten and now it's time for a nighttime exercise. Class 1A will get into pairs. Class 1B will hide in the woods and try to scare 1A with their quirks, announced Mandalay, and Pixie Bob got raring to go. It's time for, she started only to be interrupted. A totally awesome test of courage, exclaimed Mina. We're gonna win, announced Kirishima, Kaminari, Siro and Sato in excitement, only to be immediately shut down by Aizawa. While those five were taken away for their extra lessons, the remaining members of 1A got into pairs. Goku paired up with Jiro, and as soon as everyone was ready, 1B ran out into the woods to hide. About 5 minutes later, 1A followed then into the woods. Come on, Jiro. We've got to stay on the path, so we don't get lost, Goku stated cheerily. Goku, you literally can't get lost. You're glowing so bright that it would be impossible not to spot you, pointed out Jiro, and Goku grew slightly embarrassed. Hey Jiro. Why have you been acting distant lately? I asked you earlier, but that wasn't the best time, so I'm asking you now. Goku saw this as an opportunity. Jiro sighed. It's Bulma. She goes everywhere with you and you don't argue. I'm worried that she is forcing you into letting her tag along all the time. Could say it's jealousy, she admitted, and Goku listened intently. You sure that's it? He asked. No, honestly, I just don't want to lose my best friend, she finally admitted. She seemed sad. You're never going to lose me. We're friends to the end. Bulma and I may end up being a proper couple at some point, but that doesn't mean I'll stop hanging out with you. So, don't ever think that, okay? He comforted her, and she gave a small smile. Thanks, Goku. You're a good friend, she said, and Goku shrugged. I'm told that a lot, he joked, and Jiro's smile got bigger. The two friends shared a moment before Jiro was hit in the back of the head at such a force, she was immediately knocked unconscious. Jiro, Goku cried in fear, and as he made his way to her, he was sent flying away by an unseen assailant. He got to his feet and tried to spot who attacked him but was unable to. Then he heard it. At last. I finally get to meet you, son Goku. It truly is an honor, said a figure as they walked out of the shadows and into clear view. The figure appeared humanoid, but something was off. They had wings on its back which covered a small tail appendage. They towered over Goku. They had pink eyes and a crown-looking feature as part of his head. His face was white and on both sides of his face he had purple lines which eerily suggested a past enemy of Goku's. His hands and neck were also white and he had black shoulders as well as boot-like feet. His body was light green with dark green spots and there were also black plates on his chest and ankles. He looked like the most humanoid monster you could imagine. What the hell are you? Goku asked in disgust and fear. The monster grinned. I am a Nomu, or a bio-android. Take your pick, he suggested, but Goku didn't respond. I personally prefer bio-android. I can't bear the thought of being compared to those brain-dead beasts. I am true perfection, he said with disdain for the Nomus.
What are you going on about? Being perfect. What's that mean? Goku asked as his body tensed in anticipation.
You see, I'm perfect, my strength is perfect, and with that I shall bring equally perfect destruction through the rest of the world, he explained somewhat arrogantly. His energy is all over the place. I sense multiple signatures coming from him, including, Goku's eyes widened in shock and fear was apparent. The creature smiled. Ah, finally you've noticed. My genetic code is compiled of your DNA as well as the DNA of some of your friends. There is also two other people I must thank, your old adversary Frieza and his father Cold. Their generous donation made me coming into the world possible. Your DNA also helped me tap into tremendous power. In other words, I must thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, Dad, the creature sarcastically thanked. Then there was chaos. Explosions ripped through the air and there were cries of fear. The summer camp was under attack. What the hell are you? Goku asked again, but more fearful this time. The creature gave a sadistic smile reminiscent of Frieza and simply answered. I, Imperfect Cell, Chapter 4 Battle with Perfection. This was bad. The summer camp had been attacked by villains at night. All the students were split up and the pros were elsewhere, probably dealing with the situation. Why the villains were here was a mystery. To make matters worse, Goku was currently engaged in combat with a new type of Nomu. The creation, preferring the term bio-android, had dubbed itself Perfect Cell or just Cell. It was incredibly strong, and what made matters worse was that it was compiled of the DNA of Goku, Frieza, Cold and other students and pros. Oh crap, cried Goku as Cell appeared in front of him and kicked him away. Goku slammed against a tree and lurched back in pain. Usually an attack like this wouldn't have caused much damage, but this time was different. There had been a crack and Goku was pretty sure the attack had broken a rib. He clutched his side as he got to his feet. That's a shame. I was expecting more of a challenge, sneered Cell, and Goku just glared. He had proven his strength and yet Goku could somehow tell he wasn't using his full strength. The same couldn't be said for Goku. He may not have been at full power yet either, but the strain of keeping his super state active the whole day and night had physically exhausted him. It was only a matter of time before his body gave out. In this situation he wasn't allowed to use his quirk to engage a villain without permission, but he was being left with little choice. What are you after? There's got to be a reason, Goku asked, but Cell just smirked. He rushed Goku again and the team couldn't react. Cell slammed his arm across Goku's chest and flung him off into the distance before firing a death beam. The beam hit Goku in his right shoulder and caused him to spin off into another tree. He was in pain. He had never felt pain like this. Not even Kaioken X20 or Frieza hurt this much. You know, I think I know how to make this more interesting, Cell remarked before he groaned in pain. His tail appendage suddenly spat out 4 creatures and it took all Goku's willpower not to throw up. When he was finished, Cell was standing behind 4 smaller versions of him, with the main difference being that they were blue rather than green. Meet my children. Just so you know, each of them has the same strength as me. My own little army. Cell gleefully laughed. Goku mentally dubbed them Cell JRs and prepared to fight them when Cell waved them away. Go keep his friends company, he commanded, and his children did as told. They rushed off into the woods and Goku could do nothing as they disappeared from view. His friends were in trouble and he was stuck fighting Cell. How did you make them? I can't do that and neither could Frieza, Goku asked. I'm glad you asked. That is thanks to Mummy Dearest, Momo Yaoyorozu, Cell revealed. She can only create inorganic objects, Goku replied, but Cell just smiled. A little bit of DNA tweaking and some superior evolution lead to that. She's just not capable of great things, Cell taunted. That set Goku off. His aura glared to life and he rocketed towards Cell. He tackled the monster and slammed him into the ground before bashing his face in. After a couple of moments, Cell was still. Goku got off his now headless corpse and walked away. He had beaten Cell. That was until he heard movement behind him. Cell's body jumped to its feet and Goku looked on in horror when his head regenerated instantly. Cell cracked his neck before looking at Goku. But you're a Nomu. Your weakness is your head? Goku stuttered in fear. Cell gave a small laugh before holding his palm out towards Goku. It used to be, he stated before clenching his fist. Goku felt rumbling and looked down to see tree roots burst out of the ground and wrap around him. He had first attempted to destroy them with his quirk, but they began to squeeze and he felt another rib crack. He screamed out in pain while Cell strolled over to him. He lifted Goku's chin up with his right index finger so that they were eye level. "You can thank Kamui Woods for that one," he whispered before commanding the roots to slam Goku to the ground. Goku cried out in pain again, but this time his screams were louder. He must have felt 3 more ribs crack as the roots tightened around his upper body. Cell was going to crush him. "Any last words, Goku?" Cell mocked and Goku winced in pain as he opened one eye. Then with all the confidence he could muster he made one comment. "Screw you." The area was suddenly enveloped in a yellow explosion which shook the ground and incinerated the surrounding trees. Mandalay, Tiger and the villains they were dealing with looked over at where the blast had come from. Mandalay swore before turning her attention back to the villains Magna and Spinner. "Got him. Hey, thank God," muttered Goku as he got to his feet. From the looks of things, Cell had been obliterated. A fate not even he could regenerate from. Goku limped over to where Jiro had been and found her covered in dirt. His explosion had the potential of killing her by accident, so he concentrated all his energy to a fixed point. He collapsed next to her and breathed heavily. Every breath was agony due to his broken ribs, but he had somehow managed to win. "I thought Frieza was strong, but you know what they say, Jiro, the bigger they are. The smaller you feel." Goku froze. Had he just heard Cell? No, he couldn't have. Cell had been incinerated. There was no way he was still alive. He sat up and to his horror, there standing a few meters away was a fully reformed Cell who was stronger than ever before. "I must thank you, Goku. I'm stronger than ever now," Cell thanked arrogantly. "How did you?" Goku started in disbelief. "Inside my head is my central nucleus. That survived and therefore I survived. As to how I got stronger, I have genetic code of someone who can grow stronger after healing from a near-death experience," Cell explained as Goku wearily got to his feet. He slouched into a battle stance and did his best to stay conscious. "Let's get this over with then," he said through pained breathing. Cell smirked before beginning his relentless onslaught. Goku took every blow and didn't block a single one. If he was losing before, then he was being absolutely decimated now. After being knocked away, he picked up a branch and swung at Cell, who dodged out of the way. Goku then threw the branch and as it neared Cell threw acid at it. "Guess he has meanest quirk," Goku shrugged before firing a couple of ki blasts towards Cell, who deflected them with ease. Then Cell disappeared from view. He wasn't being incredibly fast, nor had he shot into the air or teleported. He was invisible and Goku couldn't sense his ki. "He must have it so low I can't detect it," he figured before his body functions shut down. He couldn't move. He had been paralyzed. Cell reappeared next to him and walked around to his front. "Camouflage and a paralyzing toxin. A gift from Suyu Asui," he revealed as he created the toxin on his hand before flinging it at a tree. "How?" Su was practicing that all day. "How do you already have it?" Goku demanded to know and Cell laughed. "How many times must I tell you? I'm perfect, so I have every evolution of each of my parents' quirks. Not that hard to remember, Goku. I expected more from the vanquisher of Frieza after all," Cell remarked while Goku stared ahead. "Circulate your ki, Goku. Flush the toxin's effects out as if it was an aura." Goku concentrated and before long he was beginning to move again. Once his body wasn't paralyzed, he keeled over and threw up. Cell looked on in intrigue and disgust. He backed up slightly as he didn't wish to ruin his perfect image. Goku wiped his mouth with his arm before turning to Cell. A massive explosion could be heard from up on a cliff. A battle must have been happening and one of the combatants had just won. Goku smiled as he recognized the victorious ki signature. "Way to go, Deku," he muttered before opening his eyes and blasting towards Cell, who was focused on the cliffside. When he turned back around, he came to face with a determined Goku throwing a punch that connected with Cell's face. The bio-android stumbled backwards before he was met with an uppercut to the stomach by Goku. Cell clutched the attack part of his body before lifting his head up to see Goku charging a ki blast, which was shot seconds later. It connected and Cell was sent flying. Goku didn't let up and began to pelt his enemy with more ki blasts. When Cell emerged highly damaged, Goku rushed him to throw another punch. However, Cell closed his eyes and smirked before catching Goku's fist without looking. Goku was shocked but threw a punch with his other arm. Cell caught that one too. The bio-android began to put pressure on Goku's hands. Goku attempted to pull away but found himself unable to. "Ah!" he screamed as his hands were slowly being crushed. "Oh my god! Goku!" cried Uraraka as she and Suyu sprinted towards him. Cell looked over at them, specifically Uraraka. "I don't believe I have your DNA," he remarked before letting go of Goku, who dropped to the ground. His hands were in pain but not broken. His main worry right now was who Cell was approaching. "Chaco, get out of the way!" he cried in desperation, but it was too late. Despite her training under Gunhead, she had been pinned to the ground by Cell, who noticed a tiny hole in her left thigh. He smiled evilly. "Toga seems to have gotten to you. This will work," he said, and Uraraka suddenly panicked. Suyu leapt at him but he batted her away easily before turning his attention to the entry point of the needle. Raising his right index finger, he created a tiny energy knife and gently pressed it against Uraraka's tiny wound. He drew his finger across it and she gasped out in pain while Goku stumbled to his feet. Once Cell had opened a small cut, he flicked the ki on his finger away and wiped a drop of the blood running down Uraraka's leg up using the same finger. He then proceeded to bring the finger to his mouth, licked it and ingested her blood. He released her and stood up. "What did you do?" cried Goku as he came to Uraraka's side, who was in shock. It was a little cut, so she was more concerned about Cell. "Thank you for your donation," Cell snidely remarked before his body convulsed for a few seconds. When it had stopped, he looked the exact same as before, apart from one difference that only Uraraka could notice at first. "He copied my quirk," she realized as she noticed the pads on Cell's fingers and thumbs. Pads which, although a shade of light green, were the exact same as hers. Cell opened his hands and looked the pads over before an evil smile appeared on his face. He glanced up at the 3 students in front of him. "Thank you, Ochako Uraraka. This will come in handy," he said before rushing over to Goku and tapping him on the shoulder with his right hand. Goku suddenly found himself floating into the air away from Uraraka. Suyu shot out her tongue to pull him back down but winced out in pain as soon as it wrapped around his waist. Her tongue retracted and began to bleed. Cell was loving every moment of this. "Chaco, can't you cancel this out?" cried Goku, but Uraraka shook her head. "No, it may be my quirk, but I can't control it if he has it," she said worriedly. Goku grunted as he rose higher into the air. He activated his flight aura, but it made little difference. Cell had taken him out of the fight. "Chaco, Su, run," he shouted, and the 2 girls quickly heeded him. They didn't get far. Cell knocked them to the ground and wrapped them up in branches. He began to squeeze and Goku could only watch. "Leave them alone, please," he pleaded, but Cell ignored him. The Frieza in him was enjoying this. Su fainted from the pain, but Uraraka's screams echoed in Goku's ears. His rage began to boil. His power began to overflow and somehow, he broke out of Cell's zero gravity. Cell looked up at him. "Not losing this time. No way. Full power," Goku roared as his golden aura burnt brightly and he burst downwards, crashing into Cell. The impact caused Cell's hold on the wood to slip and Uraraka was able to get both her and Suyu clear. She turned back to Goku, who was in the process of pummeling Cell into the ground. "Get out of here. Find Mr. Aizawa. Find Deku. Find anyone," he roared, and Uraraka gave a small nod before she took off with Suyu. Goku turned his full, undivided attention to Cell, who proceeded to blast the Furious Teen off him with a ki blast. Goku backflipped in the air before cupping his hands at his side. The blue energy formed. "Ka, me, ha, me," came the chant, and Cell awaited the attack. "Ha!" roared Goku as the beam of energy rocketed forwards. Cell held his right hand out expecting to catch the beam. Instead, it obliterated his entire right arm and drove a hole straight through his chest. He stood there stunned. "Take that!" Goku dropped his arms and panted. Cell looked at the hole in his chest and within moments it had vanished. His right arm had also regrown. "Impressive. However, if that's the peak of your power, then I'm afraid it's over for you." He smirked before knocking Goku out with a single neck chop which the teen couldn't dodge. Goku's body slumped to the ground and Cell picked him up. He was enjoying the fight so much, he had forgotten about his mission. "They're going after Bakugo. I guess my mission has been fulfilled." Kurogiri opened a warp gate. "Blither and fool," he commanded sarcastically. On cue, a warp gate appeared in front of him and he walked through. "Great work, Cell. You've done well," said a masked figure. "Of course I did. I'm perfect." All for one. When Goku woke up, he was met by darkness. He had dropped out of his super state and every single one of his wounds had been healed. His clothes had also been miraculously repaired. He sat up and looked at his new surroundings. "You're finally awake," echoed all around Goku, who stood up and entered a fighting stance. "Stand down, Goku. I'm not going to hurt you." "Who are you? Where are you?" asked Goku as his eyes darted around the room, desperately trying to spot the mysterious figure. "You're in a warehouse. The warehouse where nomus are created and stored, I should add. As to who I am." The owner of the voice walked into the light and Goku got full view of him. He was tall, wore a suit and wore a metallic mask which appeared to be some sort of respiratory system. "You may call me All for One." "Police station. I don't believe this. Katsuki Bakugo was taken by the League, but now you're telling us that Son Goku has gone missing as well?" asked Midnight, who was clearly angry. "I know this isn't the best news, but how we handle it is what matters now," replied Detective Naomasa Tsukachi. He and the entire police force were working closely with Ua and other pro-heroes to save the 2 kidnapped students. "Why would they take both Bakugo and Goku? Blackmail maybe?" asked Pro-Hero Ectoplasm, another UA teacher. "Bakugo's personality may be a reason. The League may believe they can turn him to their cause. As for Goku, I have no idea," admitted Aizawa. He was livid but wasn't going to show it. "Let's not forget that Ragdoll was taken as well," reminded Tiger, who was representing the Pussycats. Pixie Bob had been badly wounded in the attack, so Mandalay was looking after her as well as Koda. "We won't, Tiger. For now, we need to follow up on our leads. As much as it pains me to say this, UA staff can't be involved with this raid," revealed Tsukachi, with the respective heroes nodding in understanding. "Understood. Vlad and Principal Nezu have a press conference to attend soon anyway. Good luck," replied Aizawa as the UA staff members left the meeting. "Why am I even here? Shoto wasn't taken, so it's not my problem," scowled Endeavor. "You're here because you're an UA alumni. Stop your complaining," scolded an irritated Best Jeanist, the number 4 hero. "He's right. We had 2 students taken by the League and they're our main priority," agreed retired pro-hero Gran Torino. "What are our leads, Tsukachi?" "The police believe there are 2 hideouts. One is possibly this bar, which has been abandoned for some time. The other is this warehouse at Kamino Ward. We believe nomus are stored at the warehouse," explained Tsukachi. 2 places to hit. Not much time," mused Gran Torino while Tsukachi nodded. We'll split up into two teams. One team will raid the bar with the police force while the other team attacks the warehouse. Any questions? Sukachi asked before a hand raised into the air. Just one. May I accompany the team to the bar? Asked the owner of the hand. All Might's signature smile wasn't present. He was not going to go easy on the league. Hospital. Jiro didn't know what had happened when she came to. All she remembered was talking to Goku on their training exercise, and then it went dark. She had woken up in a hospital bed with a couple bandages. Good, you've woken up, remarked the doctor as they entered Jiro's room. What happened? She asked as she sat up. She ached all over. Your training camp was attacked by villains. You were knocked out cold during the chaos. You're lucky to be alive. Whatever was happening near you could have killed you, the doctor explained while Jiro looked around the room. How's everyone? She asked with worry. The doctor smiled. The majority of your class were unscathed. Some came out with a cut or two. Others like that Midoriya came out far worse. He admitted, if I'm being honest, you're lucky to be alive. You said Midoriya was badly injured. What about Goku? How's he? She was praying for a good answer. Instead the doctor sighed sadly. He moved to the TV in Jiro's room and turned it on. The channel it was on showed Aizawa, Vlad King and Principal Nezu in a conference meeting with a number of journalists asking them questions. The doctor turned the sound up for Jiro to hear. 2 students were taken by the villains. Katsuki Bakugo and Son Goku. Is it possible that due to their aggressive behavior the villains wish to recruit the pair? Came the snide question from a female reporter. Aizawa stood up and bowed. Undoubtedly. Don't let Bakugo's behavior fool you though. I should have quelled it sooner. However, this behavior he exhibits is the product of him possessing an iron will when it comes to being a hero. He is an extremely determined and strong-willed person, and I firmly believe he will never join the villains for this reason, Aizawa revealed before standing up straight and sitting down. You didn't mention Son Goku, which means he is more likely to, the same report had started. Let me stop you right there. I didn't mention him because your view of him is completely incorrect. Goku will never join the villains for one clear reason. Aizawa interrupted before leaving the room in suspense for a moment. He's pure. They took Goku? Jiro was in shock. Tears began to appear in her eyes as the situation finally hit her. Her cuts, bruises and scrapes were from Goku's battle with her assailant. He was defending her and lost. He had been taken because of her. Her tears ran down her face, but all she felt was anguish. The doctor turned the TV off and left her alone. He had a look of sympathy on his face as he closed the door. It's all my fault. Goku's been taken because of me, she scolded herself. She was far from the truth, but to her that was the truth. Her best friend had put himself in harm's way to protect her and as a consequence had been kidnapped. The knock on the door snapped Jiro out of her daze. She quickly wiped away her tears and the door opened. In walked her class. Oh my god, Jiro. You're awake, cried Momo, who ran to hug her friend. Of course, I am Yao Momo. Don't act so surprised. Jiro brushed off her friend's comment. She was still thinking about Goku's situation. The class began to ask her questions about if she was actually okay. She kept shrugging off their questions and concerns with a smile. Alright gang. Let's give her some privacy, announced Kirishima. The class said goodbye to Jiro and left. Well, most of them did. Momo, Kirishima and Todoroki remained. Let's get down to business. What do you mean Kirishima? Asked Jiro, slightly confused. The 3 of us as well as Midoriya are planning to rescue Bakugo and Goku, revealed Todoroki. We wanted your help. If you agree, the plan is to go get them tonight. Yaoyorozu has made a tracking device after placing a tracker on one of the Nomus that attacked the camp. Awase from 1B helped plant it, Kirishima explained. The others, especially Iida, dislike our plan and are completely opposed to it. If you decline, then we totally, Momo sighed. I'm coming, Jiro cut her off, catching Momo, Kirishima and even Todoroki by surprise. Jiro looked determined. It's my fault Goku was taken. I've got to make up for that mistake. Let's bring them back. Kamino Ward, Nomu Warehouse. All for one? Asked a fearful Goku. He'd never heard of him, but something about him was eerily familiar and not in a good way. That is correct. I am the true leader of the League of Villains. I've been running the whole operation from behind the scenes. Revealed the villain. He was calm, well-spoken, and somehow his voice was comforting. I even created you. You, what? Goku was unsure of how to respond. He couldn't have been created. He had been born. He was sure of it. Well, not created per se. More like I made you what you are today, All For One admitted. And what's that supposed to mean? Goku asked with what little courage he had at the moment. Your quirk. The reason you are so strong is because of some tampering I did, replied the villain. Have you never wondered why you can transform or why your super state is linked to rage? Surely you must have. You're smart. I don't know. I just assumed my quirk had evolved somehow, Goku responded while trembling. All For One dropped his head. How disappointing, he sighed before looking back up at the boy before him. He slowly approached. Goku scooted back in fear and anticipation, but no attack came. Instead, All For One got closer and loomed over him. Then he looked down. You have more than one quirk, Goku. Key manipulation is your original quirk. I simply transferred 2 more to you, revealed the villain. How did you do that? Asked a still terrified but now oddly intrigued Goku. My quirk is called All For One. I can steal quirks, stockpile them, use them in a number of ways and combinations, and finally I can transfer quirks I have stored to others, explained the villain before a grin appeared on his face. Not that Goku could see it. The quirks I transferred to you are transformation and E-factor. E-factor ties into the emotions of the person. Transformation is self-explanatory, although it has clearly changed quite dramatically from what I assumed would happen, All For One admitted. He grasped Goku's head in his hand and the boy's body locked up. I'll be taking them back now. Thanks for strengthening them. Ah! Screamed Goku in pain. He could feel his quirk being ripped from him and the pain that came with it made Cell's power look like child's play. This will be over soon, said All For One. Goku forced himself to open his eyes, which narrowed in pain. He clenched his jaw. This was it. He was about to lose his quirk and with it his chance to fulfill his dream and promise. Anger swept through him before dissipating. It was replaced by happiness and serenity. He smiled and felt at peace. There was no stopping the process, but he didn't mind. He thought back on all his martial arts training and all the friendships that made him stronger. I can still be a hero, he whispered with hope and happiness. I highly doubt that, responded All For One, but Goku didn't hear him. He closed his eyes and smiled. Remembering all the good times. That was when something changed. His face appeared younger and his body looked slimmer yet still showed his refined muscles. His skin took on a slight pink tone. The most glaring change was his hair remained in its base form yet was now glowing a bright magenta red. All stray hairs disappeared. Goku's eyebrows became the same color as his hair. An aura appeared around him which resembled a raging fire. What is this? Muttered All For One in surprise. Suddenly he looked at his hand in shock. No, he's rejecting the transfer. I can't take his quirks, sure. Enough. The process reversed and Goku found himself regaining strength as the pain disappeared. That's not possible. This has never happened. Not only is he rejecting the transfer, but it appears as if he only has one quirk. His original quirk must have absorbed the other two into itself, pondered the villain as he desperately tried to change the situation. Goku suddenly opened his eyes. His irises were now red and appeared relaxed. Then there was a blinding red light that encapsulated both All For One and Goku. An explosion erupted from nearby, sending the pair flying away from each other. Once the smoke had cleared, All For One was standing up and brushing his suit down. He used one of his many quirks to find Goku, but all he found instead was a hole in the warehouse. He wasn't visible from it, but there was a group of heroes coming through it. Cell. Retrieve Goku. I'll deal with these heroes, he commanded the bio-android before straightening his tie and walking over to the heroes. Cell watched him before turning and sensing for Goku's key signature. He smiled when he found it. Found you. Moments earlier. We're here, whispered Kirishima. He along with Jiro, Momo, Todoroki and Deku had arrived at a warehouse in Kamino Ward. Iida had tagged along to keep them out of trouble. The tracker says this is the place, admitted Momo. Iida and Todoroki put Kirishima and Deku on their shoulders respectively. The group were in disguises so not to draw attention. Jiro and Momo kept watch. I see two people in there, whispered Kirishima, who was using night vision goggles. They appeared incredibly expensive. Are you okay, Kyoka? Asked a concerned Momo. Jiro was fidgeting in anticipation. She was also incredibly anxious about what could happen. Yeah, I'm fine. Eager to get the two and leave, she defended her behavior. You're still beating yourself up for what happened. Kyoka, it wasn't your fault, Momo assured her. No, it was my fault, Yao Momo, snapped Jiro before realizing what she had done. She sighed, Goku may have been better off without me. Don't you ever say that. Goku knew what he was getting into when he fought that villain. He knew the consequences of his actions but still fought him. He cares about you yet all you see yourself as is his burden. Momo scolded quite angrily before looking off into the streets. He would die for you, you know? Jiro didn't expect that, and a blush crept its way onto her face. She pondered that for a few moments when something happened. What is that? Asked Kirishima quietly. I'm not sure, replied Deku before a bright red light blinded the pair. They leant backwards trying to shield their eyes, nearly causing Todoroki and Iida to drop them. Then an explosion ripped through the air as Mount Lady punched a hole into the side of the warehouse. The group backed up only for another explosion to knock them to the ground. Jiro was the first to stand and as she coughed, she spotted someone fleeing from the warehouse through the dust. Someone she recognized. Goku, she muttered only to look on in fear as something followed after him. She turned to the rest of the group and without a word ran after her best friend and his pursuer. I swear, Goku. I won't fail you this time, Ascension. Goku was panting. He had no idea what had happened. He was back in his base form. He was running as fast as his legs could carry him. He had to get away and get help. He kept glancing behind him to see if he was being followed. To his relief, he wasn't. What did he mean I have multiple quirks? Goku pondered before his eyes widened in surprise. He dodged to the left as a ki blast flew past him. Who honestly cares? Asked Cell as he walked towards Goku, who jumped to his feet. Your grandfather certainly didn't. What, Grandpa Gohan? Goku asked. Cell just grinned. Oh, right, All For One didn't tell you. I forgot, he laughed while Goku looked on. Didn't tell me what? He asked, this time with urgency. Your grandfather worked for All For One. While it was more of a favor for him saving Gohan's life, Cell revealed as Goku struggled to comprehend what he had just been told. Cell shrugged. The old fool actually began to care for you and see you as his grandson. He refused to hand you over to All For One so that he could take your quirks. In response, All For One proceeded to do the single most cruel thing he could think of. He made you kill Gohan, Cell said. It was one sentence, but it devastated Goku. Everything came flooding back to him. Memories that had been buried either by All For One or pure trauma he didn't know. He saw himself blast a hole straight through a weakened Gohan's chest, his first kill. No, I didn't do anything wrong. I can't, cried Goku in anguish. He began to tear up and he was losing the will to fight. He had killed the last person to ever look after him. Regardless of whether he had been controlled or not, he still ended Gohan's life. Oh, but you can. You had a taste for blood when you were young. Why do you think you had no qualms with killing that Nomu in Hosu City? Or better yet, Frieza? It felt normal. Cell continued to mock and Goku collapsed to his knees. Tears streamed down his face and he couldn't bring himself to move. Cell approached him but he didn't have the fight in him anymore. This was fun. Let's do it again sometime, Cell remarked sarcastically as he prepared to knock Goku out. There won't be a next time, declared Jiro as she tackled Cell away from her friend. Cell gasped in surprise as the pair tumbled to the ground and Goku looked worried. Don't give up, Goku, please. Impudent bastard, growled Cell as he flung Jiro off of him. She skidded along the ground before coming to a stop. She tried to get up, but Cell held her down with tree roots. He approached her and grabbed her by the throat before hoisting her into the air. Let's see your blood. Goku, gurgled Jiro as Cell squeezed. She weakly attempted to fight back but her efforts were in vain. Goku watched as the life began to vanish from her eyes. Let her go, he warned Cell, who simply chuckled. Don't be impatient, I'll get to you after I kill your friend here, he said. He failed to notice Goku getting to his feet, his rage building. I said, let her go, he roared as he transformed into his super state. Plumes of dust were thrown into the air and the ground cracked. Cell was surprised by this sudden outburst of power and his grip on Jiro lessened. What the? He started before a fist connected with his face and he was launched away. Goku stood where the bio-android once was and in his arms, he held a coughing Jiro. You okay? He asked with concern. Jiro looked up weakly and smiled. I've got my best friend back, she replied, and Goku smiled in turn. He placed her on her feet, making sure to be careful, and turned his attention back to Cell. That attack won't have finished him off. I'm not allowed to use my quirk out in public. We've got to move, he commented before grabbing Jiro's hand and running away. She stumbled at first but regained her bearings and kept up. You're not going anywhere, shouted Cell as he appeared beside Goku and batted him away. The blonde-haired teen swung Jiro around midair into his chest and clutched her close to him. He took the full brunt of the impact. He loosened his grip on Jiro and the pair stood up. Goku, he can't run, and he can't fight. He's going to kill us. Jiro was starting to panic and to her surprise so was Goku. I know. I'll try to hold him off while you escape. Goku sounded uncertain of what was going to happen and that was worrying. He went to move forward but found Jiro holding him back. She had tears in her eyes. I won't let you throw your life away for me. I'm not worth that much to you. I'm just a burden, she cried in despair while Goku looked flabbergasted at what she had said. Does she really think she gets in the way? He thought. Jiro. What? She sobbed. Don't you ever think you're my burden? You hear me? Not once have I ever considered you as such. He began as he held Jiro's face in his hands. The pair locked eyes. I'm going to fight him to keep you safe. You're worth it. Every ounce of fight I have left in me is going towards keeping him from you. As Jiro stared into Goku's greenish-blue eyes, she felt the sudden urge to kiss him. She had finally realized after all the time the two had spent together that she had fallen for her best friend. She gave a small smile. What's the smile for? Asked Goku with a smile of his own. Nothing. You just better come back, she commanded before taking Goku's hands in her own. He slowly removed his hands from her face and turned in the direction Cell was approaching from. He turned his head one last time to look at Jiro. I meant what I said, you know. You mean more to me than you can even imagine, he assured before blasting towards Cell, who responded in kind. Jiro watched the pair begin their fight with a heavy yet hopeful heart. She turned and began to escape. She could hear the sounds of the battle even from a distance. Then she heard a scream of pain. From the voice alone she could tell Goku was in trouble. She stopped running and turned around, looking back in the direction she had just come from. I'm going back to make sure he keeps his promise, she whispered to herself before eyeing a nearby music store that had been evacuated. An idea formulated. She ran over and opened the door, which hadn't been locked in the panic. She grabbed a roller and using all her strength lifted a massive speaker up onto it. She began to roll it out of the door and back towards the scene of the fight. Hang in there, Goku, I'm coming. When Goku and Cell first connected, the ground beneath them fractured. Cell was smirking while Goku was gritting his teeth. While their right arms were connected, Goku swung his left around to hit Cell in the face. Cell simply caught the attack with his left hand. Cute trick, he remarked before pushing Goku's fist away, throwing the teen off balance. Cell took this opportunity to charge a ki blast in his left hand and blast it into Goku's face, with Goku having to break contact with Cell just to block. When he dropped his arms, he was met with a sucker punch which sent him flying backwards towards the remaining wall of the building. Goku regained his balance midair and propelled himself at the wall using his feet. His aura appeared as he pulled his right arm back and clenched his fist. Cell, a little too arrogantly, prepared to counter. Goku threw the punch which ricocheted off Cell's arm. What Cell didn't expect was for Goku to use the momentum to a stationary side spin midair before uncurling and dealing a powerful kick to Cell's head. The impact caused the bio-android to be launched. He skidded across the ground before using Kamui Woods' quirk to create a wall of wood for him to crash against. Why, you little, he growled as he stood. Goku couldn't help but smirk, something that angered Cell even more. You think you've got a chance? Ha, how wrong you are. I don't have to win. I just have to keep you busy, Goku responded. Your funeral, grinned Cell before he disappeared from view. Goku immediately entered a fighting stance and concentrated. Cell was camouflaged and could completely lower his key signature. Goku prepared to block and if he was lucky, counter. The first strike came from above and Goku barely caught it in time from when Cell reappeared. However, he wasn't quick enough to catch Cell's kick to his side. He lost his grip on Cell's fist and the bio-android disappeared again. Goku prepared himself once more. Unfortunately, he wasn't as fortunate as last time. Cell hit him in the back before grabbing him by the back of the head and slamming him into the ground. He lifted Goku's head and proceeded to slam his face into the ground 3 more times. "Why won't you just die?" shouted an angry Cell before turning Goku over and lifting him up by the tatters of his shirt. "Where do you think you got your tenacity from?" joked Goku in a croaky voice. Cell was livid, then he smirked. "Allow me to thank you personally," he remarked with evil intent before letting go of Goku's shirt and quickly locking his arms around him. Cell pulled the boy in tight and began to crush him. Goku started to scream in pain as Cell's hold on him tightened, yes, begged for mercy. "Ah!" echoed as Goku felt multiple ribs snap. Tears of pain appeared in his eye and he clenched his jaw shut in pain. He was barely keeping his eyes open. "Any last words?" mocked Cell. "Just 3, rock and roll," came the sudden voice of Jiro. Cell let Goku go and turned to face her. Instead he was blasted by vibrations from the speaker Jiro had acquired earlier. She had plugged her jacks into it and was increasing the volume. Cell writhed in pain while Goku lay on the ground. The latter started to pull himself out of the way. Slowly but surely, he did. Cell noticed and went to grab him, but Jiro turned the volume up even more. Cell's pain increased and he collapsed to his knees. When he appeared defeated, Jiro turned her attention to Goku. He was slowly getting to his feet but winced with every moment. The pain was unbearable and it showed. Jiro lost concentration for but a moment, showing concern. The volume and power of the vibrations decreased and Cell managed to launch a ki blast at the speaker which exploded. Jiro was thrown back a little way, still conscious. "Well, Goku, I think I'll kill you now. Then you can die knowing you failed to protect her," Cell growled. He began to limp over to Goku only for a rock to hit him dead in the face. "Leave him alone," cried Jiro. She threw another rock which Cell batted away. She kept throwing rocks with the same response until Cell had finally had enough. "Fine then. You'll die first," he announced before charging a massive ki blast. Jiro realized the situation. "There's no point in running. I won't get clear in time," she muttered sadly. She was about to die. At least she managed to be a hero one last time. "Die!" screamed Cell as he fired the ki blast. Jiro prepared herself for the blast. An explosion erupted from where she stood. Rock and dust was thrown into the air. Cell lowered his arm and gave a triumphant grin. However, the grin soon vanished as his eyes opened in shock. The dust cleared and there standing in front of Jiro using his left arm as a shield was Goku. Jiro was hunched behind him with her head turned away, eyes closed, and arms raised. She noticed she was unharmed and opened her eyes to evaluate herself. Then she noticed Goku, who dropped his left arm. It was incredibly bloody and limp. "Goku, you took that for me?" she muttered. Goku weakly turned his head and gave a reassuring smile. "Of course. No way was I going to let that monster hurt you," he replied with a positive look in his eyes despite the situation. Jiro looked at him, gave a small smile and closed her eyes. "Thank you," she said before opening her eyes again in concern. "Goku, your arm." "Yeah, it's completely broken," he chuckled. "I can't move it." Jiro didn't know how he could stay optimistic, but it was relieving to see. "As much as I'm impressed you're both still alive, I'm afraid it's over. You can't fight in your current state, Goku, so I'll make your deaths as quick as possible. Think of it as a gift," Cell mocked before cupping his hands at his side, a gesture Goku immediately recognized. "Ka, me, ha, me," Cell chanted as a cyan energy built up between his hands. "Jiro, you need to move now," Goku commanded before raising his still functioning arm and looking at his hand. He clenched it tight with determination. "Right, but are you sure you can form a Kamehameha with just one hand?" she asked as she moved back. "We're about to find out," he quickly replied as he reopened his hand and began to draw it to his side. "Ka, me. You can't possibly hope to defeat me. This attack has enough power to destroy the entire solar system," gloated Cell, but Goku remained unfazed. "Ha, me," he continued as the orb of blue energy in his hand grew bigger and more powerful. Cell finally finished charging. "Ha!" he shouted as he thrust his arms forward and his cyan beam rocketed towards Goku. "Ha!" roared Goku as his aura roared to life and fired his own attack. The two beams collided in a brief blast of cyan and blue energy. The collision shattered the windows and destroyed the ground beneath it. A massive energy formed from where the two Kamehamehas connected and grew. Cell shouted as he poured more power into his attack. His beam began to push back Goku's, who was straining his arm. "RRRRAAAAGGGGHHHH," bellowed Goku as he used all the power at his disposal to push back Cell's Kamehameha. For a brief moment the two were at a stalemate. That was until Cell smirked. "Time I stopped holding back," he shouted over the noise, and Goku was taken aback in shock. Cell tensed his arms and pushed them forward, with his Kamehameha growing in size and power as a result. He once again began to overwhelm Goku, who this time could not push back. No, I can't win. He's too strong," Goku muttered in pain as his adrenaline was beginning to wear off. "I'm completely spent. It's over." "Goku, you can do this," cried Jiro, and Goku glanced over to see her behind cover. She looked determined and assured of his victory. Goku's eyes took that determination and doubled it. He turned back to Cell and poured every ounce of power he had left into his beam. He pushed back the beam. "Incredible. Though I'm not done yet," revealed Cell as his aura sprung to life and his beam overwhelmed Goku's once more. Cell's Kamehameha neared, and now Goku had no chance to beat him. This is my true, perfect power Goku. None can match it. Then he was hit in the eyes with something.
My eyes. Who dares? He growled. He squinted and saw two earphone jacks retract back to Jiro. She had managed to get closer to Cell without him realizing and taken the opportunity to distract him. You little, it's high time I killed you.
What's that? Asked Jiro before looking down at the ground. A piece of wood jutted out from the ground and sank into her left leg. It was a clean entry and it came out the other side. Gah-ag. Hurts doesn't it? Mocked Cell before using Kamui Woods' quirk to create two walls of wood that were closing in on Jiro to crush her. She desperately tried to break free, but another piece of wood sank into her right leg. She screamed in pain. She was bleeding profusely. Goku, whose head was lowered with his legs and right arm giving way, heard her screams and weakly raised his head. When he saw Cell torturing Jiro, something inside of him snapped. He closed his eyes and grit his teeth as his rage boiled. It continued to rise higher and higher to the point where Goku thought he was about to explode. You monster. You'll pay for that, he muttered. Cell turned his full attention back to Goku when he heard him speak. Goku opened his eyes, now filled to the brim with rage, and glared deeply into Cell's. You'll pay for THHHHAAATTTTT. What is this? Asked a shocked Cell. Jiro weakly opened one eye. Goku was changing. His aura was taking on a jagged, fierce flame-like appearance as opposed to its usual smooth and flowing appearance. He began to pulse at a higher frequency. Blue sparks of electricity began to constantly surround his body. His hair became spikier and stood up more with some of his bangs going up. His muscle mass barely increased. Two things were clear though for both spectators. Goku had just transformed into a more powerful form and he was livid.
You attacked my training camp, you attacked my friends. But then you had to go and torture Jiro. You're going to regret doing that, Cell, cause now I'm mad. I'm really mad. And now it's time to pay. Roared Goku as his rage and power exploded. He pulled his right arm back before thrusting it forward again into his Kamehameha. The energy beam exploded with power and completely overwhelmed Cell's, which dissipated instantly. Cell looked on in fear as Goku's attack rapidly approached him.
How? He asked quietly as the enormous energy beam loomed over him. He screamed in fear and pain as he was enveloped. His body began to fall apart quicker than his regeneration could put him back together. He managed to look forwards and saw Goku with his right arm outstretched slowly walking forward with a look of anger and tiredness on his face. He kept powering his Kamehameha, making sure to erase each part of Cell from existence. Cell screamed in pain as his body finally gave way and he was completely disintegrated. Goku finally stopped fueling his Kamehameha, which dissipated a few moments later, and collapsed to his knees. It's over, he panted before using his remaining strength to limp over to Jiro, who was close to passing out. Luckily the walls of wood fell apart the moment Cell perished, but the pieces of wood in Jiro's legs remained. Goku snapped them off where they exited the ground. Jiro fell and Goku caught her with his right arm. He helped her away and helped her to the ground where he also sat down. Knew you could do it, Jiro managed to say. Goku placed his hand on the wood still in her right leg and gripped it tightly. This is going to hurt. I'll be as quick as possible, he promised with Jiro giving a small nod. Using his newfound strength, Goku ripped the wood from Jiro's leg, the latter screaming in pain. Goku then proceeded to quickly use his quirk to cauterize the wound. He then repeated the process on her left leg. When he had cauterized the wound in her left leg, he collapsed next to her and depowered. You got him, Jiro said. Yeah, he's not coming back from that, responded Goku. Jiro moved over slightly and Goku wrapped his right arm around her, pulling her in close. She was initially taken back but became relaxed, snuggling into his embrace. Fatigue finally took over and she fell asleep. She was breathing softly. Goku smiled at her and pulled her in closer. He had a lot to process, such as his new form, but for now he needed to rest. Despite the sounds of intense battle not far away, Goku found his eyes closing and he willingly accepted the darkness. Chapter 7. The consequences of one's actions. Now, it's your turn. 4 words was all it took. All Might had defeated All for One at the cost of his power. Those 4 words spoke volumes. To the world it was a warning to all villains. But to Deku it meant something completely different. It was his turn to be the symbol of peace. Tears appeared in his eyes with only Bakugo noticing. A scowl of sorts appeared on the hot-headed boy's face as well as a sense of realization. Wait a minute. Where's Jiro? Asked Iida as he looked around rapidly. Oh crap, she must have disappeared shortly after the attack by the heroes, realized Kirishima. Deku and Bakugo snapped out of their respective trains of thought. How did you lose her? Asked Bakugo aggressively. His rescuers turned to him in confusion. What? I'm just asking a question. She can't have gotten far, admitted Deku before he too was struck by his own realization. I can't believe we forgot about Goku. You don't know where Goku is? Asked a surprised Bakugo. He was getting more frustrated by their incompetence. Well, it's not like we weren't going to rescue him. We just never found him, revealed a nervous Kirishima. Idiots. Use your heads. If Jiro is missing, then why could that be? Bakugo mocked. Bakugo's right. Jiro would only disappear if, began Iida before his eyes widened in shock. She found Goku. Better yet, if she disappeared after we were knocked to the ground, then she must have seen Goku escape from the warehouse. We already outstayed our welcome here. We need to alert the authorities, resolved Deku with Iida and Kirishima nodding in agreement. Bakugo rolled his eyes at their incompetence. There's another reason she went after him, but you can figure that out yourselves. Morons, he thought to himself before following the group over to some officers.
What ensued was them explaining that their friends were missing, and they needed help to find them. It didn't take long for the police and some present heroes to mobilize.
Sometime later, pro hero Edshot was performing recon when he came across his targets. Laying on the ground, snuggled up together were Jiro and Goku. To say they were in bad shape was putting it lightly.
It's Edshot. I've found them. Track my position and have recovery girl notified. They're not looking good, he relayed to Tsukauchi. Edshot made his way to the pair who were snoring softly. He surveyed the surrounding area and took note of the signs of battle before examining the duo's wounds. Whatever had happened was not good. He pitied them for what was going to happen next.
The next day, it was noon when Goku awoke in the hospital.
His left arm was completely bandaged and his right arm ached. He had a number of plasters all over his body. He lay still for a few moments before finally sitting up. Due to his injuries, it was far more difficult than he expected. He winced in pain before noticing Jiro, still asleep, in a bed next to him. Although her legs were covered by the bed covers, Goku could tell she had been healed too. He smiled before hearing the door creak open.
It's about time, young man, said the doctor rather bluntly. He appeared irritated by Goku, who was unsure why. Did I do something wrong? Asked the teen before a man entered the room alongside Edshot and Tsukauchi. The man wore the suit and looked like a humanoid dog. Good afternoon, Mr. Goku. My name is Kenji Suragame and I am the chief of the police, introduced the man while Goku eyed him suspiciously. Something was up but he didn't want to react just yet. What's going on? Yawned Jiro as she finally awoke. The noise was most likely the cause. Miss Jiro. A pleasure. We have some questions for the pair of you, revealed Suragame. About what? Asked Jiro. About last night's events, replied the police chief. Oh my god, was anyone hurt? Asked a worried Jiro. Fortunately, no All Might made sure of that, he reassured her. She seemed to relax physically and glanced at the look Goku was giving their three visitors, but we're not here about that. We're here about your battle with one of the villains we have been unable to find. Do you happen to know where? He's dead. Every last atom of him was vaporized, interrupted Goku. All three visitors looked at him in shock while he leaned back in his bed and closed his eyes. If you ask me, the bastard deserved it. The police chief was slightly unnerved by Goku's comment. He said it so calmly and that was frightening. Do you happen to know who killed him? Goku opened his eyes and with little emotion opened his mouth. Me, he stated. Edshot, Tsukauchi, Suragame and the doctor were speechless. Jiro just looked on sadly. She was expecting the worst to happen now. You are aware that is illegal? Asked Tsukauchi as he composed himself. Goku just looked at him. Yes, I am aware. But he wasn't a human. He was a Nomu, he replied before adding some more context, or as he preferred to be known, a bio-android. He was made in a test tube out of my DNA, the DNA of my class and the DNA are some heroes and villains. Firstly, Nomus are people who have been experimented on. Secondly, he was still a living being and that means it is still murder, argued Tsukauchi while Edshot and the police chief stood silent. Whatever. Wouldn't be the first time I put a villain down. Ever heard of Frieza? Shrugged Goku. He wasn't improving the situation with his attitude. Jiro was beginning to think something had happened in the warehouse. Frieza? As in leader of one of the largest criminal empires? Questioned Tsukauchi. What happened to him? I killed him, replied Goku once more. Also stop using your quirk on me. I'm telling you this willingly. Tsukauchi was shocked Goku had noticed his quirk's effects but complied all the same. That was 2 victims under Goku's belt, yet he seemed unfazed. You seem fine with this, commented Edshot. Yeah, I am. They were monsters who only cared about killing. There's only one way to deal with them. Besides, why should Frieza live? Sure, I spared him initially, but he attacked me as soon as my back was turned. I had no choice, Goku admitted nonchalantly. Why do you have such disdain for Frieza? Asked Edshot cautiously. Goku's body tensed in anger once the question had been asked. Because he murdered my parents, that's why. Why should he get to live? If it was any of you, he would have been allowed to live. Sure, he would have rotted away in Tartarus, but someone in his empire would plan an escape and he'd go right back to killing. Goku's outburst shook the room as his golden aura flashed. I understand that, but why this bio-android? Why'd you kill him? Asked a surprisingly relaxed Edshot. Because he tortured Jiro. Why else? He had Frieza's DNA. He felt pure joy in torture and killing. He left me with no choice. Was the reply once more, but this time tears began to fall down Goku's face and he reverted back to his base form. He dropped his head and closed his eyes. What really happened, Goku? Finally asked Jiro as she leant over and took his right hand. Goku's tears ceased relatively quickly and he turned to face Jiro, who had concern plastered on her face. His face softened and his eyes showed the Goku that was usually present. Jiro held his hand tighter and smiled. Something about it calmed Goku and gave him the confidence to reveal the truth. He sighed and turned back to face the detective, hero and police chief. I apologize for my behavior. It was not the best move. My point still stands about killing Frieza and Cell, but not entirely. No one deserves to be killed. But as I said, they left me no choice. Frieza attacked me even after I spared him, and Cell's attack could have wiped out the entire solar system, or so he said. There was one more kill which I never told you about. He apologized before gearing himself up for his biggest reveal yet. Son Gohan was murdered a few years ago. Who by? Asked Edshot calmly. He knew where this was heading. By me, Goku briefly replied. The looks he received forced him to elaborate, not intentionally. All for One used one of his quirks on me and forced me to blast a hole through my grandpa's chest. He was my first kill and admittedly I wish it was my last. So, you already have blood on your hands, but you didn't know, mused Deadshot. We've heard all we need to hear. We wish you two the best recovery, said Tsuragame, and he bowed to both students. Jiro was still reeling from learning about Goku's tragic past becoming even more tragic. You're not going to arrest me? Goku asked in disbelief. Why would we do that? I don't see any reason to, replied Tsuragame, who seemed rather content with his decision. Well, I've killed 3 people, haven't I? Goku asked, still confused. Had the chief of police even been listening? Incorrect. While it may have been you who physically killed your grandfather, Frieza and Cell, it was all for one who was the cause of that bloodlust. He manipulated you and with him imprisoned. The case is closed, explained Tsuragame. Besides, Frieza's empire is in disarray and that's one less Nomu on the streets. In other words, we won't punish you for that. It is a serious offense, but you were clearly left with no choice. As for your illegal quirk use, Tsukachi followed up with, Goku and Jiro gulped. We had a similar issue in regards to the hero killer incident. Since no one was present, due to All Might's battle, we're letting you off. Although know this. If you use your quirk in public before getting your provisional hero license again, or if you kill again, you will brought in. Are we understood? Threatened Tsuragame, who barked once he had finished speaking. Neither Goku nor Jiro wished to say anything and simply nodded in acknowledgement. Very well. Good day. With that, both members of the police force left the room, but Deadshot remained. You're good kids. However, there is some bad news. While you were let off this time, I'm afraid we had to notify Ua of your involvement in the rescue mission Jiro and your use of your quirk outside jurisdiction Goku. Good luck with Aizawa. He warned before giving a sly smirk to the pair. He then made his exit. Hey Goku, Jiro broke the silence. Goku turned to face her and she smiled. For what it's worth, thank you. No thank you, Jiro. I was going to let Cell take me back to All for One after he revealed the truth about my grandpa's death. But then you showed up. You saved me, Goku replied with a smile. Jiro, initially taken aback, composed herself and smiled. Kyoka, she stated. Huh? Asked Goku with an eyebrow raised. I want you to call me Kyoka, Jiro elaborated. Don't you only let Momo call you that? Goku inquired. Well, you're a special case, Jiro replied without thinking. Her eyes widened and she quickly turned away, a blush creeping its way onto her face. Goku was completely lost. Oh man. I really have got a crush on him. He'll never feel the same though. He has Bulma. She's perfect and I'm well not. Alright you two. That's enough flirting, came the sudden voice of the doctor who was still in the room and was amused by the situation. Time to take your bandages off. School starts again soon. Sometime later. Let me get straight to the point. Save for Bakugo and Goku, I am in the right of mind to expel every last one of you. Those of you for going on that rescue mission when you were ordered not to do anything and everyone else for not even attempting to stop them. Aizawa berated the entire class. He was extremely disappointed in 1A and was furious with them, but that's in the past. The situation was less than ideal. For now, all I expect is for you to work harder than ever. No slacking, understood? Yes sir, replied 1A quickly after their fear disappeared. They were currently standing in front of the brand new UA dorms. Each student had been visited by Aizawa and All Might to discuss the initiative. When Goku had been visited, Aizawa had made sure to confront him about the recent events regarding Cell but had understood that the situation was dire. However, his punishment was still received and because Aizawa wanted him to suffer and be exhausted 24/7, he had ordered Goku to permanently stay in his super state as part of his unfinished endurance training but also because he wanted Goku to have to work the hardest. Despite not wanting to leave his house, Goku had agreed and had brought his memorials for his parents and grandpa with him. Bulma was moved into the dorms for the support class, allowing the pair to meet up. Bulma's clinginess had vanished and she had appeared to have given Goku his space. She also stopped calling herself his girlfriend, something he appreciated. Feelings were still there but they wouldn't act too quickly. Plus, Aizawa had reiterated what he had said at the pool all those weeks ago. You will live here 5 days a week. You will be allowed to visit your parents every weekend and socialize. The idea behind these dorms is to ensure the safety of every student as you will be monitored at all times. We'll leave deciding rooms up to you, explained Aizawa before turning away and walking to the 1A dorm. The mood was rather somber until Bakugo had the bright idea of having Kaminari overcharging. The blonde-haired boy was once more the laughingstock. You okay? Whispered Jiro as she stood next to Goku who was in his super state. He looked exhausted. Do I look okay? I'm exhausted here. He cried, leading to Jiro bursting into laughter. It's not funny. How'd I get this as a punishment, but you're let off? Hey, you used your quirk remember? Laughed Jiro as she wiped a tear from her eye. So, did you? You're not completely innocent Kyoka, Goku retorted. He was acting like a little child. Jiro continued to laugh while Goku failed to see the funny side. He'd gotten quite accustomed to calling her by her first name now. Eventually Goku stopped sulking and chuckled. What's so funny? Asked to finally calm down Jiro. Goku had a smile on his face. He had thought of something. Oh, you know. Just the fact that you snuggled into me after Cell was defeated. You were holding me like it would be the last time we'd ever see each other, he replied before shrugging, which is ridiculous considering we're technically living together. Well yeah, but we almost died, Jiro reminded him, but Goku kept smiling. Then Jiro decided to ask him a question about that fight. What was that new power by the way? It looked like your super state evolved. I'm not sure. I definitely got way stronger. It kinda sucks honestly. I'm so powerful that I don't really need to use the power pole, he sighed. Hey, it's not the end of the world. You can treasure it, comforted Jiro as she smiled. Yeah you're right, agreed Goku. Anyway, going back to that new form, I guess you're correct. It does seem like an evolution of my super state. I guess super state 2 works as a name, but I have a better idea. How does super ascended sound? Make those ultimate moves.
The provisional license exam is coming up soon. So, to prepare, you are going to work on ultimate moves and make any necessary changes to your hero costumes if deemed fit, Aizawa explained to 1A as they gathered in Site Gamma. Smintos was busy making the finishing touches to the structures for training.
Mr. Aizawa, what do you mean by ultimate moves? Asked Mina. Goku, still in his super state, had crossed his arms and was observing the surrounding area. He wanted somewhere isolated to practice. What are you looking at, vegetable? Asked Bakugo. The nickname didn't faze Goku in the slightest. He actually quite liked it. Bakugo tended to give nicknames to people he considered friends or at the very least respected. Just King Vegetable, thank you. Goku smirked and Bakugo grinned. Goku continued to search for an area and ignored the majority of what Aizawa was saying, just looking for somewhere I can train is all. Trying to get a head start, Bakugo asked, makes sense. These extras will get in our way. Goku just laughed and continued to be in his own world when something Aizawa said caught his attention. Some of you already have ultimate moves, such as Iida's Recipro Burst or pretty much all of Goku's, Aizawa revealed, and the class looked at the two. Iida felt proud of his ultimate move while Goku felt dread. He already had so many ultimate moves. Care to name off these ultimate moves for us, Goku? Asked Aizawa, and Goku smiled nervously. Everyone was looking at him, and through it all he spotted Jiro trying not to laugh. Yeah, of course, Mr. Aizawa. So, there's the Kamehameha. That's my main one. Then there are the two inspired by my dad. Saiyan Spirit and Riot Javelin, Goku started. Hold up. What's a Saiyan? Asked Kaminari with an eyebrow raised. The nods from everyone asked the same question. Oh well, me and my dad used to read these comics that depicted someone on Earth actually being an alien sent from another world. He was called a Saiyan. Me and my dad admired his strength despite him being fictional. I think his name was Shallot. Goku mused before getting back to his list of ultimate moves. Anyway, then there's also Meteor Combination. That one's for when I use Kaioken, but I'm sure I can use it in my super states. There's also some techniques I can potentially use courtesy of someone I used to know. That's a lot. Do you even need new ultimate moves? Asked Tokiyami. The question confirmed to Goku what he knew. He had very little he could work on ultimate move-wise. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be ultimate moves. They can be a new fighting style or just better control over your quirk. Whatever it is, you've got the next few weeks to practice. So, get to it, Aizawa ordered, and immediately everyone scattered. Hold back quickly, Goku. What's up, Mr. Aizawa? Asked the teen as approached his teacher, who looked tired as per usual. You don't seem to be struggling as much with your endurance training, observed the pro, and Goku smiled. That's because I'm not. It's been a few weeks and I think I've gotten a handle on it. Don't get me wrong, I'm prone to get angry and violent quicker, but that's just this form, Goku admitted before his aura came to life. Pretty sure I can stay in this indefinitely now. Makes fighting a whole lot easier, though I still appreciate the challenge. Don't forget that your quirk can be stolen and cancelled out should a villain have the means to do this, Aizawa reminded the overeager student, whose aura disappeared just as quickly as it had appeared. Regardless, I'm impressed. Now, have you made any work on the next form? Goku nervously scratched his head and chuckled. Aizawa's eyes narrowed, and it took everything he had to stop himself from facepalming. Well, you see, that form uses far more stamina than this form. So, if this was a struggle to keep up, then I reckon Ascended will be worse. I don't even want to think about if there's a third form to follow on from Ascended. In fact, if that uses even more anger, then I'm just going to leave it. Goku shuddered, but something about what he had said gave Aizawa pause. Wait, so these forms come from anger, correct? He pondered out loud, and Goku gave a confused nod. Care to explain your quirk again? Sure. Well, it's a bit more confusing now. My original quirk is ki manipulation. That sums up my flight, ki blasts, ki attacks, and Kaioken, as well as the ability to sense ki signatures. However, All For One revealed that he had transferred two other quirks to me, those being transformation and E-factor. Apparently the latter two were somehow absorbed by my main quirk, and that explains why I can transform and get more powerful. All down to emotions, I guess, Goku explained. So, have you tried other emotions then? You've got two forms for rage, so why not try another emotion? Happiness, perhaps? Aizawa suggested, and this comment had the desired effect. Goku looked deep in thought. I'll leave you to it. Think of ultimate moves before this new form. Or if you want extra work, do both tasks simultaneously. With that, Aizawa walked off to confront All Might, who had at that moment walked in. I guess Mr. Aizawa's right. I could use a new form. Maybe I technically have one. I think something happened when All For One tried to steal my quirk. I should make notes on these sorts of things. Goku smacked his head in frustration before wincing in pain. He had forgotten how strong he was when in his super state. He shrugged and went off to an isolated area to train. A few days later, Goku was completely stumped. Everyone had something new. Deku had a new fighting style. Bakugo had a new move called a P-shot. Everyone had something except him. Hey young Goku. How's it coming along? Came the cheery voice of All Might. Goku turned to face the ex-pro hero with a smile. Not good. I can't think of anything, he complained. All Might laughed at his predicament. Imagine that someone who has so many ultimate moves can't think of a new one, he remarked with a cheery smile. Something about it was reassuring. I've been thinking. You can sense the ki of every living thing, correct? Yeah. Why do you ask? Well, why can't you find a way to gather that energy into one place and use it as an ultimate move? All Might suggested. Goku's jaw dropped at how blind he was. All Might had essentially suggested that Goku try something that Master Roshi could do but in his own way. "Why didn't I think about that?" exclaimed Goku in annoyance as he covered his face with his hands. All Might laughed again, and when Goku removed his hands he simply waved him goodbye. "Alright. Let's do this. The day of the provisional license exam. You've trained weeks for this. I don't expect you to let me down or yourselves down," Aizawa said to the entirety of Class 1A, who were all eager to go. Goku had decided to power down into his base form and currently held in his right hand the case that contained his hero costume, new and improved. "Hey Bulma," greeted Goku as he entered the workshop where Bulma was tinkering. One other student was there, and it was none other than Mei Hatsume. Bulma turned around quickly in excitement and ran other to hug her friend. "Goku, fancy seeing you here. You finally come to ask me out on a date?" she teased with a wink while Goku rolled his eyes and laughed. Bulma had oil and dirt over her body, but she was an inventor, so it was expected. "Anger issues. How are you?" exclaimed Mei with the nickname that she had given Goku. Surprisingly, Goku found it humorous, so allowed it to stick. "Pretty good, thanks. How are your inventions coming along?" he asked with curiosity. Mei's eyes lit up. "Babies 64 through to 75 are coming along well. Want to have a look?" She was pushing up against Goku now, who was slightly uncomfortable. He averted his eyes away from her, slightly showing cleavage. "No, I'm good thanks. I need to discuss costume specifics with Bulma," he admitted, and Mei pouted in annoyance. "Okay then. If you need me and my babies, I'll be over there, bye," she exclaimed and proceeded to return to her current project. Goku breathed out in relief and turned back to Bulma, who was snickering in amusement. "What?" he asked. "Nothing," she waved him off before turning back to her own work table. "It's just good to see you. Now you said costume changes, correct?" "Yeah. My old costume feels more like a prototype. I don't want any enhancements, just aesthetic changes. It needs to encapsulate martial arts, if you know what I mean," Goku explained, and Bulma nodded while taking down notes. "I like the other one, but I agree. You could use an aesthetic upgrade. I'll make the material stronger, although it will still rip given enough damage. Now for color scheme. Blue and orange again?" she asked as she sketched out a design. "Yes please. Oh, and no martial arts insignia if possible." Bulma turned around and raised an eyebrow at him, forcing him to elaborate. "Well, it makes people think I'm just part of a martial arts school and not a hero. That clearer?" "I guess. Bit weird though. Anyway, you need it for the provisional license exam, which is in 2 days if I'm right, which I always am," Bulma gloated. Goku laughed before nodding. "Yes please. Sorry for leaving it so late," he apologized. "Don't apologize. I love to work under pressure. I'll have it to you by tomorrow evening," assured the blue-haired girl. "Thanks, Bulma," Goku cried in joy as he hugged his friend. Bulma smiled and returned the gesture. "I'm looking forward to it. See you later." With that, Goku ran out of the workshop. Bulma couldn't help but notice the worry on his face. She soon discovered why his Mei's invention exploded. "Damn it, Goku. You could have warned me." Goku snapped out of his reminiscing to discover a student from another school talking to Deku and some of the others. He shrugged it off and looked dead at the exam center. He was ready. Ua versus everyone. "We could have been warned," cried Goku as he and other members of Class 1A became surrounded by other schools almost immediately after the first part of the test began. Almost every school converged on them. Bakugo had broken off with Kirishima and Kaminari while Todoroki had gone off by himself. The test had been going on now for a while. "Give it up, Ua. You can't stop this," gloated a member of a rival school as he tossed one of his softballs into the air. All schools had to go head-to-head with 3 failure points on each of their bodies. All 3 hit by these balls and they were disqualified. Whoever gets the final hit on someone gets the point and passes the first part of the exam. With 6 softballs each, the students had to be quick and accurate. The first 100 students to pass would go through to the next round. Everyone else would have to wait till the next year. "Look out," yelled Deku as he leapt into the air and kicked about 3 balls that had been thrown their way. Goku smirked. Deku's shoot style was coming along well. Each member of 1A was doing a good job at defending. Then the ground below them blew apart. "Go get them," commanded the student responsible. Goku glared at him and realized it was the student had been really friendly to Deku earlier. His name was Yoshindo. "Two-faced snake," Goku muttered before hearing a ding on his back. One of his spots had been hit. He growled and did a mid-air backflip as the next ball was thrown. It hit his front attacker dead in the spot on his chest. As Goku faced the thrower, he shot a ki blast and then threw one of his own balls. The blast knocked the student off balance, allowing the ball to hit one of his spots. "What should we do, yo?" asked one of Shindo's fellow students. "He'll be trouble. Focus on his friends to get him angry. Then when he's not in control we can take him down," Yo ordered with a somewhat maniacal grin. His classmates nodded and proceeded to go after 1A. Then it happened. A massive gust of wind, something that could only be described as a hurricane, swept through the arena. It picked up any balls laying around and any that people were holding. The culprit was a young, tall and muscular teen who stood atop a massive structure. Using one hand he dissipated the massive hurricane and balls shot out in all directions. Countless of students were disqualified. Goku acted fast. He noticed Uraraka in the open. Goku blasted towards her and scooped her off the ground just as an onslaught of balls neared her. He then concentrated as hard as he could as he dodged every ball. Then he saw it. One ball heading straight for Uraraka's back spot. Before she could even ask what he was doing, he had swung her around and taken the ball in one of his 2 spots. He now only had one left. Goku, what are you doing? If you get hit again you'll be out. Reprimanded a shocked Uraraka. Goku turned and smiled. It's cool. Besides they'll have to actually hit me, won't they? He asked rather cockily, to which Uraraka gave a confused look. When the threat from that one boy subsided, Goku walked out into the open and powered up into his super state. He then did his best impression of losing control of his rage and began to destroy everything in sight. It had the desired effect. This is our chance. Take him down, Ketsubutsu, shouted Shindo, and on cue every member from that school plus members from other schools converged on the raging Goku. His new costume complemented him well. He had a dark blue short-sleeved undershirt, a closed orange gi secured by a dark blue knot-tied obi over his waist, blue wristbands and dark blue boots with a yellow border and red laces. In other words, he looked like a hero, a martial artist and a buffoon all at once, which was perfect. His plain costume tricked villains, and other students, into thinking he was weak despite many knowing he wasn't. Goku's covering us. Let's split up and then regroup soon, ordered Jiro quickly as she realized what her crush was doing. Then under her breath she muttered, keep safe Goku.
RRRRRRRAAAAAAGGGGGHHHHH, roared Goku in pure unbridled rage. As the other students cut off his escape routes and closed in, he figured it was probably best for him to drop the act. His body relaxed, his eyes lost their primal look and he smirked. Shindo realized what had happened too late.
No, it's a trick, get back, he started before Goku's power exploded outwards. Many students were sent flying and others in their panic threw their box at him. Goku effortlessly dodged them before catching one of them and lobbing it straight at Shindo. The older teen couldn't even blink before he hunched over in pain. One of his spots had been hit, but the force of the ball concerned him more. Probably should have mentioned that I can control this form completely now, Goku gloated while Shindo scowled. We'll just have to tire you out then, he said in pain. Goku laughed again. You can try. I've been training this form for a while. The stamina drain no longer exists. This is my super state at full power. He roared as his aura ripped through the air. What felt like seconds was actually minutes as Goku dispatched many rival students. He'd already caught wind that Todoroki, Bakugo, Kaminari, Kirishima, Uraraka, Zero and Deku had passed. He sensed Jiro and her little group in trouble but decided that they were completely capable. He was worried about everyone else. They were scattered. By this point Shindo and his group of lackeys had retreated and gone after weaker prey. Serves them right for underestimating Ua. Goku remarked quietly as he caught another ball and threw it at its original owner. Goku was tiring out at all and he loved that. Suddenly a massive beam of light shot into the air. A beam of light that Goku immediately recognized. It belonged to Aoyama. He must be sacrificing himself. Not many spaces are left, Goku realized before noticing that every remaining member of his class was making their over to the light. Well, this has been fun guys, but you'll have to excuse me. I have a test to pass, Goku remarked and blasted off towards the rest of his class. He immediately spotted the remnants of his class picking off other students. Hey guys, what did I miss? Goku joked as he landed next to Mina, who gave her signature smile. She playfully punched him in the shoulder. Not much, we're all about to pass. Want in? Mina grinned and Goku gave a determined smile in agreement. He then raised his left hand and Mina showed confusion only to see him catch a ball without looking. Then he tossed it into the air and shot a key blast at the rubble the attacker was standing on. The rubble collapsed and the attacker fell to the ground, his final spot vulnerable. Goku then caught the ball he had tossed into the air and passed it to Mina. All yours, he remarked, and with little thought she grinned and threw it. It collided with the spot and her spots turned green. She had passed. See you in a bit Goku. You better pass, she threatened playfully and Goku waved her goodbye. He observed other members of his class pass. Goku, if you want to pass there's one spot left, informed Iida as he passed. Goku nodded and spotted his target. He picked up a ball which was on the ground and prepared to throw it. Then he stopped. He looked on in shock as he saw an older boy, about 3 years older, with long jet black hair give a wicked grin at him before teleporting out of the arena. Goku depowered and his arm holding the ball dropped to his side, leaving him defenseless. This gave his target the chance to throw his ball at him. Goku's body moved on its own and he dodged. He showed clear shock on his face. Whether at the person he had seen or what he had done, it was unclear. He wasn't the only one shocked. Shaking his head, he threw the ball which connected with his target's final spot. All of Goku's went green, signaling his pass as the 100 candidate. Rescue exercise. As soon as Goku entered the lobby, Jiro ran over to him and hugged him. She pulled away and glared at him. Don't leave it to the last minute next time, she scolded before pulling herself back into the hug. Goku sighed and hugged her back. He was still thinking back on what had happened. What his body had done and who he had seen.
Congratulations. You passed. Don't get comfortable though. Your next challenge is more difficult, warned the sudden voice of the exam observer with a bored tone. He then proceeded to give a rundown of the final part of the exam. It would be a simulated training exercise in which actors would portray civilians caught in a villain terrorist attack. Each student would start with 100 points and shoddy work would deduct points. If they fall below the pass threshold, they immediately fail.
What's wrong, Chaco? Asked Goku to Uraraka, who looked dejected as Deku was interrogated by Kaminari, Mineta and Zero over the girl who walked away from him. Oh, nothing really, I'm fine, she murmured, but Goku wasn't fooled in the slightest. He followed her eyeline and immediately realized the problem. Still unsure? He asked quickly and received a nod in reply. You don't have to act on these feelings now. Wait a bit. He'll come around. Uraraka gave a weak smile and Goku smiled back with a thumbs up. I'll talk to him. But yeah, you're right. I need to take the time to act on my feelings for Deku like you were doing for Jiro. Uraraka determined, catching Goku off guard. Wait, what? My feelings for Kyoka? What feelings? He asked quickly as he shook Uraraka. I need details, Chaco. Uraraka laughed and tapped the side of her forehead. With that she walked off to prepare for the exercise. Goku pondered what she meant. His feelings for Jiro. He had always seen her as his best friend, but did it go deeper than that? The way they always looked out for each other and worried about the other nonstop? How they put their lives on the line for each other? He didn't have much time to think as the exam began. Here we go, said Deku, and a group of 1A students, Goku included, made their way over to a crying child. Goku surveyed the area and took note of the rubble. He heard Deku mutter something only to be reprimanded by the actor immediately. Goku flinched back in surprise but relaxed and went to look for casualties. He eventually came across a young woman and a child pinned under some rubble. Hero, please help us, cried the woman in fear. Goku had to admit these actors were really convincing. The child was bawling his eyes out. Don't worry, this shouldn't be too difficult, Goku replied confidently as he blasted the rubble on top of the woman. He began to crumble down, and not in a good way. Luckily it didn't completely collapse. You idiot. Think before you act. You could have killed both of us had this been a real rescue operation, screamed the woman, and Goku actually felt fear. 6 points deducted. Goku's eyes opened in shock. 6 points? Should have rescued my child first. Another 2 points deducted. The added insult to injury. Goku had just lost 8 points in the span of a couple of minutes. He calmed himself down and gave the most reassuring smile he could. It's going to be okay, ma'am. I'll have both you and your child free shortly, he said. The woman smirked and went back into character while the child did the same thing. Goku had to be quick but careful. He surveyed the rubble directly above the child. Then he made his move. Don't worry, buddy. I got you, he reassured as he used all his strength in his base form to slowly lift the rubble. Then as he raised higher, he quickly powered up to his super state, although made sure to control his ki so not to damage the structure. He lifted the rubble above his head with his right arm and carefully scooped the child off the ground into his left arm. The child cried into his chest and Goku did his best to calm him down. Goku slowly lowered the rubble to the ground and carried the child to a safe distance but not too far. He then proceeded to do the same with the mother. However, as he lowered the rubble it began to crumble and fast. Goku silently cursed and pulled the mother in tight. He looked at her and gave a wink. Sorry about this. Hold on tight, he suggested before a massive concentrated beam of ki energy shot out of his right palm. It completely obliterated the rubble. Not a single speck of rock remained. Goku loosened his grip on the mother, ran towards her child. Why are you looking up, hero? She asked, still in character. Goku, without looking at her, calmly replied. I'm pretty sure I got rid of all the rubble, but I want to make sure. He looked for a few more seconds before sighing in relief. Got them all. Good job, kid. You made sure the danger had passed before joining us, the mother congratulated. Goku smiled happily before making his way over to the two. Let's get you two somewhere safe. Want a piggyback ride, little guy? He turned and asked the child, who nodded eagerly. The mother looked unimpressed. Then a massive explosion went off nearby. Goku caught a glimpse of what appeared to be the pro-hero gang Orca along with some lackeys. He quickly deduced that these were the terrorists. Shindo, Todoroki and the Hurricane Teen all quickly engaged him while other students dealt with his goons. Goku had other priorities. Aren't you going to go stop the villain? Asked the child, who was now scared. I will help, but I've got to get you two to safety. Can't have you getting hurt now, can I? Goku replied with a flash of a smile. With that he led the mother and the child, who was still on Goku's back, to one of the safe points. The closest one was through terrain where Goku had some more points deducted for his unnoticed ignorance. By the time he actually reached the safe point he had been escorting about 8 civilians. They all thanked him as they arrived and Goku nodded with a smile. He had a new problem. Shindo, Todoroki and Hurricane Teen had been taken down by Gang Orca. Deku was fending him off the best he could. Goku shot into the air, powering up into his super state as he did so and blasted towards Gang Orca, who had Deku in his grasp. The two were surrounded by a circle of fire and wind. Gang Orca was becoming dehydrated and Goku took his chance. Hey ugly, he yelled, and Gang Orca looked up to see Goku throw a punch at his face. Orca threw Deku to the side and caught Goku's fist in his right palm. He took a firm hold on it and tightened his grip. Goku struggled to escape and realized he was about to meet the same fate as the others. Foolish hero. This pathetic form of yours can't do anything. You're just too slow, Orca growled. Despite being a hero, he really had a villainous vibe about him. He punched Goku in the gut and pulled the teen in close, ready to dispatch him. Goku allowed his rage to boil and he gave a sudden grin. Is something funny? Yeah, I guess. If I'm too slow, I guess I'll just have to power up more, won't I? Goku replied. Orca, Deku and even Todoroki gave shocked face expressions. Goku's aura roared to life and lost its flowing appearance. It instead took on a jagged, fierce flame-like appearance. It pulsed at a higher frequency and blue sparks of electricity began to surround Goku's body. His hair became spikier and some of his bangs going up. He also appeared far angrier. With little effort he pulled his hand from Orca's grasp and swung his right leg around. It connected with Orca's face, with the villain grunting in pain and being flung into a crumbled building. Goku landed on the ground. How's that for power? Goku gloated with a smirk as he walked over to Deku and helped him off the ground. What is this power? asked Orca as he burst out of the rubble. Goku signaled for Deku to make sure the other three were okay. Like it? This is essentially an evolution of my super state. I call it super ascended. Only accessed it a few weeks ago, he explained before noticing the mark left by his kick. Stings, doesn't it? He had gotten a tad too arrogant, but he could chalk it up to his form. Orca charged in rage and Goku dodged to the side before delivering a swift kick to the back of his opponent. Orca quickly turned and swung his fist to hit Goku. He missed due to Goku's upgraded speed. What Goku didn't expect was for Gang Orca to throw a large chunk of rock at him with his other hand. It hit Goku head on and the teen was sent careening through a building. As he removed the rubble from him and stood up, he noticed the top of his GI had been completely ripped away with the tattered blue undershirt remaining. He rolled his eyes in annoyance before noticing that he was now near a safe point. Damn! I can't fight all out here and I have no idea how long I have left, Goku mused before sensing Gang Orca approaching him. I need a concentrated attack to stay in one area which has preferably already been severely damaged. It also needs to be out of range of the civilians. Guess now is a good time to use it. Goku blasted forward and speared Gang Orca back before pushing himself off. You can't win, hero, Orca mocked, but Goku ignored him. Then catching the villain off guard, Goku depowered all the way to his base form and raised both arms with palms open to the sky above his head. Orca was confused but attacked regardless. As he neared Goku, he was intercepted by Deku. I'll hold him off, Goku. Whatever you're doing, make it quick, Deku shouted and Goku nodded. With that, the one-for-all user went head-to-head with Gang Orca. The Deku's size allowed him to nimbly outmaneuver many of Gang Orca's attacks. Many but not all. Some caught him but he hopped back up and attacked again. Draw in the energy of all living things, Goku whispered to himself. Small specks of blue ki began to converge on his hands. He borrowed energy from all people present, from the air and from plants. Only he could see these specks of ki, but everyone could see the energy massing at his hands. That's enough. Doesn't need to be large, Goku remarked before pulling the energy into his right palm and closing his hand. He dropped his left arm to his side and held his right just in front of him. He smiled. His new technique had worked. Only one thing left to do. Deku, keep him still, Goku commanded and Deku nodded. He dropped Gang Orca to his knees and made sure to bombard him with blows using the shoot style. The villain was left still and on cue Goku thrust his right arm forward and opened his palm. A small ball of blue ki energy shot out and rocketed towards Gang Orca. The name of this technique was Spirit Bomb. Deku jumped out of the way and the attack collided with Gang Orca, who began to writhe in pain. He was enveloped by the attack and it blasted him skywards before exploding in the air. It was a great spectacle to watch. Orca crashed into the ground still barely conscious and Goku jogged over to Deku. What was that? Asked the emerald-haired boy. The Spirit Bomb. An attack formed by gathering the ki of all living things. It does no damage against people with pure hearts, but to those with even a semblance of evil, well, the result speaks for itself. That's why I depowered. My super states are made from rage and that's not exactly pure. Goku explained and Deku took a keen interest. Yes, you can write this down. Thank you, exclaimed Deku and Goku laughed in amusement. Well played, young man, muttered Gang Orca. Then a siren went off. The exam had ended. You all performed well. You will be handed your results that will depict how you performed. This leaderboard will show you whether you passed or not and where you placed. Said leaderboard turned on and there were gasps of joy, sadness and anger. The anger was from Bakugo, who had failed. Kirishima and Kaminari did their best to calm him down. Todoroki had also failed and looked disappointed in himself, but he and Hurricane Teen had apologized to each other for whatever had happened between the two. Goku on the other hand. Woohoo, I passed, he cried in happiness. Jiro laughed at his behavior but congratulated him regardless. Well done, Goku. Wouldn't you get points wise? She asked with a smile.
74. Could have done better but I still passed, he admitted. He went to hug Jiro, who had also passed, but stopped himself as he recalled Uraraka's words.
What's wrong, Goku? Asked Jiro with a look of concern. Oh, well, I was just wondering something, Goku started before taking a deep breath. Do you like me, Kyoka? The question caught Jiro completely off guard. She blushed and became flustered. Well, of course I like you, as a friend that is, she stammered, but Goku wasn't fooled. Well, not completely. I mean as more than a friend, he confirmed, to which Jiro's face became redder. He had his answer. Well, yeah, I guess my feelings for you have changed over time. Jiro started before looking Goku dead in the eyes. I do like you. Do you feel the same? I don't know. I'm sorting through my feelings, Goku admitted, and Jiro became slightly deflated. She chose not to take it to heart. He'd tell her how he felt when he was ready. It doesn't matter. We passed. Let's have fun, okay? Yeah, let's. Goku looked off into the distance, still pondering what had happened at the end of the first phase and how he felt about Jiro. He had passed the provisional license exam. He was one step closer to being a hero. New challenges awaited. Lost connection. Oh, will you shut up? Screamed the 8-year-old long-haired boy as he hit Kakarot in the face. The 4-year-old immediately burst into tears and howled in pain, drawing the attention of his mother. Raditz, what was that for? Shouted Giant as she picked Kakarot up and cradled him in her arms. He's your brother. He's weak, annoying, and there are many more reasons why I hate him. He should have left me alone. He's no brother of mine, replied the uncaring Raditz as he rolled his eyes and walked away, straight into his father. Raditz gulped in fear as he met Bardock's glare and felt his legs begin to tremble. You got 5 seconds to apologize to both your brother and your mother, said Bardock sternly. Get to it. Raditz, in pure stupidity, mustered up the courage to answer back. Why should I? I'm stronger than both of them combined. You should be on my side, he argued only to receive a swift knee to his stomach. He hunched over in pain and shock at being hit by his own father. Bardock picked him up by the shirt and brought him to eye level. And I'm stronger than you, so if strength means anything to you then you'll do as I say, he growled before dropping Raditz to the ground and making his own way over to check up on Kakarot, who had calmed down by this point. Raditz glared at his father as he placed Kakarot on his shoulders. This is fun, exclaimed Kakarot with a massive smile on his face. More. Bardock complied and Jine held her hand over her mouth as she chuckled. The entire time this was going on, all Raditz could do was watch. A hatred for his younger brother began to manifest, one that far outclassed his previous disdain for the young boy. Snarling, Raditz stormed upstairs to his bedroom and slammed the door. He couldn't care for his family. It's always Kakarot this, Kakarot that. What does that brat have that I don't? He raged as his quirk sprung to life. He picked up an image of him and Kakarot which Jine had taken when the two were younger. In the image, Kakarot looked happy and seemed pleased to be with his brother, while Raditz looked revolted by his own sibling. An enraged Raditz did the only thing he could in that moment. He obliterated the image. He'll never be my brother, I want nothing to do with him. By the time of Kakarot's 5th birthday later that year, Raditz had kept his word. He avoided Kakarot and completely ignored him. As far as he was concerned, his brother had never existed. Jine and Bardock tried everything they could think of, but Raditz wouldn't budge. His mind was made up and nothing would change it now. Raditz, it's my birthday, celebrated the now 5-year-old Kakarot as he knocked on his older brother's bedroom door. There was no reply. Raditz, did you hear me? What did you get me for my birthday? Asked the cheery Kakarot, still none the wiser to the situation. Nothing, now get lost, screamed Raditz as he slammed the door open and pushed Kakarot away. The boy fell backwards, tears brewing in his eyes as he stared up at the person he called brother, glaring at him with pure hatred. I just wondered is all, sniffed Kakarot. This set Raditz off. He saw red and picked Kakarot up at the shirt with his right hand, much like his father had done all that time ago. His left lit up as his quirk sprung to life. Let's get something straight. I don't like you. No, scratch that. I hate you. You're weak and stupid. You're not my brother. You say you want to be like dad when you grow up. Here, let me help you. Raditz focused his quirk into his index finger and moved to cut an X into Kakarot's left cheek. The young boy squirmed in fear as his brother's finger neared. No, please. Get off of me, cried Kakarot in fear before lifting his hands to push Raditz off him. What neither of them expected was for Kakarot's quirk to manifest in that moment as two key blasts shot out of his open palms and blasted Raditz back into his room. Kakarot dropped to the ground and scampered back, looking at his palms in fear and surprise. Raditz was shocked at what had happened. How? He muttered as he stood. Kakarot looked at him in confusion. How did a weakling like you get a stronger quirk than me? He roared before lunging for Kakarot, who attempted to block. Raditz didn't even get close to the younger boy. That's enough, shouted Bardock as he appeared out of nowhere and hit Raditz in the chest. The older boy was sent flying and landed on his bed. He knew his father had held back, but the blow still hurt like hell. I have been lenient throughout all of this, Bardock started in a low voice. I gave you every opportunity to abandon this path and accept your brother, but you shrugged me off. You shrugged your mother off as well. Then on the day of your brother's 5th birthday you attack him for asking whether you had got him a present or not. You go to carve the same scar that I have on my face onto his. How twisted are you? No wonder his quirk manifested as he attempted to fight back. Every word stung. Raditz felt rage and sadness at the same time. Tears began to well in his eyes, but he didn't let a single one of them fall. Jine was comforting Kakarot while looking at Raditz with sad eyes. She was ashamed of what he had become. Fine, if you're going to defend him, I'll just leave and get out of your way, threatened Raditz. He was bluffing, but Bardock's lack of response spoke volumes. His father no longer cared. Then the tears fell. Raditz shoved on his shoes, grabbed a bag and shoved clothes into it as well as blankets. He picked up a pillow and hoodie and shoved his way past his family. Bardock didn't move to stop him and Kakarot watched him go with sadness. Raditz, wait. You don't have to do this, cried Jine in despair, her own tears staining her face as she rushed after her eldest, who was already by the front door. Please don't leave. I love you. She was begging now and Raditz paused. With a glimmer of hope, Jine believed she had gotten through to him. Then Raditz turned and with poison on his tongue he spoke. No, you didn't. You never loved me. You only ever loved Kakarot. You were never my mom and never will be, he said before looking the weak, pathetic creature he used to know as Mum in the eyes. I hate you. With that he opened the front door and slammed it behind him. Jine broke down then and there and her sobs could be heard all throughout the house. Kakarot attempted to calm her and she pulled her into a hug. He wrapped his arms around her and cried as well. Bardock just stood where he had been standing the entire time. His hands were bleeding from where he had clenched his fists and his arms were shaking in emotion. Whether it was rage or sadness, it was unclear. What was known was that as Kakarot glanced over at his father he saw something he had never seen before and something he would never see again. He saw his father with tears on his face. Raditz had disowned his entire family and left. No one heard from him. Some months later Kakarot's world changed. Bardock betrayed Cold and Frieza after years of blackmail resulting in the pair attacking his house. Cold was killed by Bardock in combat while Jine protected Kakarot. Then Frieza ended the life of the married couple while Kakarot was whisked away by All For One, who transferred 2 extra quirks to him and gave custody of the young boy to son Gohan. Kakarot was renamed Son Goku, unwilling to return to his birth name but forever trying to keep his promise to his parents. Then a few years later Goku's world changed again. Gohan refused to hand him over to All For One, resulting in his death by his own grandson's hands from All For One's meddling. The event was erased from the boy's memory and he was led to believe a villain had been responsible. 2 years later and Goku was living by himself and had gotten into UA High School where he would learn to become a hero. Throughout all this he not once heard from Raditz. Whether he was dead or not he was unsure. One thing was clear. His old family was gone. But now he had a new family, Heart of Joy. "What are you doing, Goku?" asked Jiro as she approached her friend from behind. Goku, who was sitting outside on the steps of the 1A dorms, opened his eyes and turned to face her. "Just working on something Mr. Aizawa suggested is all. He reckons I can access new forms if I focus on different emotions," Goku explained. Jiro sat down next to him and looked out in front of them. "How's it going?" she asked as she watched the sunset. Goku sighed and turned to watch the sunset too. "Not really sure. I'm focusing on happiness since I believe I may have accidentally manifested this form before. No luck so far though," he admitted, and Jiro turned to him. "So, you got what?" "2 forms from anger which are essentially yellow with gold. I thought that would be the color for happiness," she pondered. Goku nodded in agreement. "Yeah, I thought it was strange too. If the usual colors don't correlate to the form then I've no idea what color happiness would be. Orange maybe." He chuckled before turning to face Jiro. "What brings you out here anyway? Surely not just to ask what I'm up to." Jiro blushed but quickly composed herself. "No, I just got bored in there and figured you wanted some company is all. I mean we should be having a good time. We got out provisional licenses after all," she pointed out and Goku smiled. "Are you okay? After the first phase of the exam you've been acting like you've seen a ghost." Goku once more turned away. "You don't know about my brother do you? Makes sense. I've only told Bakugo about him and even then it wasn't specifics," Goku revealed. Jiro's eyes lit up mistaking what he was saying for good news. "You saw your brother taking the exam? That's great news. You should introduce me to him if you get in contact. I'm sure he's as kind and great as you." She buzzed with joy but Goku had a sad expression on his face. "I wish he was like that or that he'd been taking the exam. I definitely saw him, but he teleported out after we made eye contact. He seemed to relish my expression and not in a good way," Goku said and Jiro's expression changed. "He left home on my 5th birthday, he was only 8. Ever since I was born he had disliked me and over time this became hate. In his eyes I was weak and not worthy of being his brother. His quirk was strong. Anyway, on my 5th birthday he finally snapped and attacked me. He went to cut my face, but my quirk manifested, and he was launched back. He didn't like that my quirk was stronger than his and he lunged for me only to be hit back by my dad. Long story short, Dad lost his temper and Raditz threatened to leave. Dad didn't react to the threat and my brother did exactly that. He left home. Before he left he disowned all 3 of us. Me, my mom and my dad. My life went to hell as you know. Not once did he come looking for me. I haven't heard from him for a whole decade." There was a pain and sadness in Goku's eyes that he was desperately trying to fight. "Hope you don't mind me saying this, but he sounds like a prick," Jiro said when Goku was finished. The boy's eyes opened in surprise and he faced Jiro. Then slowly a smile crept onto his face and he burst into laughter. Jiro joined in although she didn't laugh as hard. "I guess that's one way of putting it," Goku remarked as he laughed harder. His eyes lit up with happiness and his smile grew bigger. Tears appeared in his eyes from where he had been laughing so hard and so much. Since his eyes were squinting as he laughed, only Jiro noticed the change. Goku's face appeared younger and his body looked slimmer yet still showed his refined muscles. His skin took on a slight pink tone. The most glaring change was his hair had remained in its base form but was now glowing a bright magenta red. All stray hairs began to disappear. Goku's eyebrows became the same color as his hair. An aura appeared around him which resembled a raging fire. Jiro looked shocked and mesmerized by the form. Goku finally stopped laughing but remained in the form. He was still completely unaware of the change. "What's up?" he asked, his voice sounding more youthful. Jiro was still mesmerized by the form and, without thinking, hugged Goku. She wanted to test something. Despite the appearance of his aura he was warm. A good kind of warm and his aura on touch felt calm and relaxed. This was the same warmth she had felt when he pulled her in for a hug after Cell's defeat although she hadn't truly noticed it at first. "Look at the window you idiot," was Jiro's muffled reply. Goku turned and saw his appearance in the window. He looked so young. Jiro pulled away from him and the form quickly disappeared. "What was that?" he asked. "That was your form that comes from happiness. The colors really are all over the place." "I never expected it to be red," Jiro chuckled but Goku was still astounded. "Looks like when you forget all anger, sadness and pain and truly have a good time and embrace all the happiness you've experienced the form manifests." "Good observation Kyoka. Don't think I can name it just yet. I need to master it," Goku mused before noticing something. He didn't feel exhausted at all. "I don't feel tired. The other 2 physically drain me although my super state doesn't do that anymore. Either there is no stamina drain or it is extremely unnoticeable. I also felt my strongest yet." "Well, you can work on it later. We should get inside," Jiro commented. Due to the brightness of the new form neither of them had realized that the sun had completely set and that it was nighttime. They stood up and made their way to their rooms. As he opened his door Goku sensed Deku and Bakugo leaving the dorms. He considered going after them but felt it. "Embrace all the happiness I've experienced huh?" Goku whispered before smiling. "I'm glad I met you Kyoka." Most of that happiness has come from our friendship. I'll do my best not to disappoint you. This form will be my most heroic yet. Goku's face then darkened. Wherever you are, Raditz, know this. If you try to hurt any of my friends, I'll take you down. I don't need mom or dad to protect me anymore. I'm not afraid of you anymore. With that, he turned his night light off and drifted off to sleep. Had he remained awake, he would have been able to make out the silhouette of an older man in the darkness of his bedroom. A man with long jet black hair, his face covered by shadow. You should be. Then he was gone as the sounds of fighting echoed through the night. Authors note the plot thickens. The Big Three. Due to recent events, we have decided that work studies will be opened up to first years. Aizawa informed the class, who weren't entirely sure what to make of this new. Aizawa picked up on this. Basically, you do proper out in the field work with pros and their agencies. It's good experience. Only those of you who received your provisional licenses are allowed to partake, however. You may use any contacts you got from your internships. Well, I'm screwed then, thought Goku. At that moment, the door opened and in walked 3 students. 2 boys and 1 girl. Goku quickly glanced over at Mineta and Kaminari, who were enthralled by the girl. Even Goku had to admit she was attractive. Meet Nijire Hato, Tamaki Amajiki and Mirio Tagata. All third-year students. They're better known as UA's Big Three, Aizawa announced, and the 3 students stood at the front of the class. No way. UA's Big Three. That's so cool, exclaimed Deku. He had just come back after 3 days suspension. Apparently he and Bakugo had a rematch at that night after the provisional license exams. Bakugo was still serving his suspension but was expected back tomorrow. Deku had decided to inform Goku that Bakugo now knew about One for All. Hiya. My name's Nijire Hato. It's great to meet you all, greeted Nijire as she rushed around the room. She got up close to each student to say hello. When she got to Goku, he just smiled and bowed his head in respect. Ooh, smooth my dude, Nijire said in a strange tone of voice. Mineta steamed up and attempted the same thing but failed miserably. Goku rolled his eyes. Ignore him. Nice to meet you too. I'm Goku. Goku introduced himself and Nijire jumped back in excitement. You're the Goku? I've heard so much about you. Show me your gold form. Show me your quirk in action. Show me, show me, show me. Nijire began to float, catching everyone by surprise. Sure. I guess I can, but maybe later, Goku suggested with a nervous chuckle. This girl was something else. It was like someone had taken Uraraka and combined her with Mina, then dialed the fun-loving and airheadedness up to 11. He had to admit that this girl was really friendly. Wow. Everyone's watching her. She's so confident. I couldn't handle it, mumbled the dark-haired boy who was looking at the ground. He suddenly noticed the attention he was getting and freaked out. No, don't look at me. He quickly turned to face the wall. It was here that the blonde-haired boy with bright blue eyes stepped forward. Don't mind Amajiki. He gets shy around people. He's a really great guy once he opens up properly. I'm Mirio Tagata. We're here to talk to you about work studies. That way you can all be in this Tagata. He punched upwards thinking his pun would land. He didn't. The entirety of Class 1A just stared at him. It was awkward. Tagata. To get her. Oh, I get it. Ha 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 ha. Goku processed the pun and burst into laughter. Jiro facepalmed and the rest of the class looked at him with looks of, really? What a guy. The rest of you are a tough crowd. Tagata chuckled as Goku's laughter died down. Wow. Someone laughing at one of your jokes after only just meeting you. That's a first, Mirio, commented Nijire, and Tagata got jokingly defensive. What do you mean? Everyone laughs at my jokes. He laughed. Amajiki just tried to hide himself more. They sure are great, Mirio, he muttered. Thanks, buddy, Tagata replied, and the smallest smile could be seen flashing across Amajiki's face. It was here that Goku noticed something about Mirio. Tall, blonde hair, blue eyes. He looked an awful like. Excuse me, Tagata, was it? Are you by any chance related to All Might? Goku's blurted out question left everyone speechless. Jiro just covered her face in embarrassment, not for herself but for Goku. Aizawa pinched his nose. Everyone looked at Goku, who looked dead serious. Haha. No, I'm not. I get that a lot though, replied Tagata with enthusiasm. Do you? Asked a naive Nijire. Tagata began to sweat in embarrassment himself now. This is the first time hearing of it. Enough, ordered Aizawa, clearly too tired of the conversation. You're here to discuss work studies. Get to it. Right. So, I'm sure Aizawa has already explained work studies to you. You only really did them in your 3rd year at UA, as by then you have a lot of experience under your belt, Mirio explained. Please, we've taken on the League of Villains multiple times now. I think we're more than capable, gloated Kirishima. Yeah, we can take anyone on now, agreed Kaminari. The class had essentially become rather arrogant from all their villain encounters. Goku didn't feel the same way. He could always improve. However, he had to admit he was confident in his strength and skill. Is that so? Why don't we take this down to the gym and see you in action? Suggested Tagata with a smile. All of us against you. You won't stand a chance, pal. But yeah, why not? Replied Kirishima with a smug grin. That was how Class 1A, minus Todoroki and of course Bakugo, found themselves facing off against Mirio Tagata of the Big Three. Everyone participating was in their gym gear and they had split into close quarters and long-range fighters. Goku was sort of in the middle as he could specialize in both. You guys ready? Called Tagata from his side of the gym hall. Class 1A came shouts of excitement to signify that they were indeed ready. Okay, here we go. Tagata sprinted towards the close quarters group who prepared to attack him. They didn't know his quirk, but they would adapt just as before. As Tagata neared, something happened that caught everyone off guard. He completely vanished. Not even Goku could sense him. Wait, where'd he go? Asked Jiro, who had seen him vanish. She was right at the back. Right behind you, came Tagata's voice. Jiro turned around to face him and immediately went red. She also began to scream. Tagata was indeed behind her, but his clothes had been left behind in front of the close quarters group. He was completely naked. The hell? How didn't I sense him? Questioned a surprised Goku. Everyone turned around to see Tagata completely dispatch the ranged fighters effortlessly. When he was done, he took a pose and shouted what could only be described as his battle cry. Power RRRR, damn. I've got to get serious now. Super it is, Goku said in a low voice before powering up into the first of his forms. Oh wow, that's so cool, squealed Nijire as her eyes lit up. Goku smirked and took a fighting stance, desperately trying to avert his eyes from Tagata's nether regions. He also wanted to concentrate so he could sense where the third year was going to be. That's it for the long-range fighters. Now for you guys, Tagata commented with an enthusiastic smile. A smile that somehow ticked Kirishima off. Well, you'll have a much tougher time now. We've got Midoriya and Goku. Just try it, he challenged, and the two named students looked at him in annoyance. Guess I'll have to take those two out first then, Tagata responded before disappearing into the floor once more. He then reappeared behind Deku. The emerald-haired boy, who had anticipated the attack, swung his leg around to kick Tagata, who looked somewhat impressed. Time for an ultimate move, Tagata shouted as he went to poke Deku in the eyes, who closed them on instinct. Tagata's arm was completely intangible, but the distraction allowed him to deliver a powerful blow to Deku's stomach, knocking the student to the ground. All Goku heard as the move was carried out was Blinder Tough Eyeball Crush. With that, the successor of One for All was out for the count, and Goku caught Kirishima's expression. He now regretted his cockiness. Who's next? Asked Tagata, still with that same smile. All remaining students, besides Goku, rushed him. They were swiftly defeated, and Mirio was more shouted his catchphrase. Puir RRRR. Well, I guess it's you versus me now, huh? Asked Goku. Think I've got your quirk down. Not the name, but how it works. You can move through objects, can't you? Very observant. Yes, you are correct. My quirk is called permeation. Want to know the rest? You'll have to fight me. Tagata ran at Goku. I just want to know one thing. Why can't I sense your ki? Goku admitted. He watched as Tagata fell through the floor. Initially assuming he would appear behind him, Goku spun around to see nothing. To your left, Goku turned and got hit square in the chest. Despite Tagata's quirk, he definitely must have worked out because it hurt. Crap, muttered Goku as he winced in pain. He had stumbled back. Ascended it is. With that, he increased his power to his next form and prepared for the next attack. Tagata complied and fell through the ground once more. This time Goku stood firm. Tagata attacked from the left and Goku blocked the attack and threw a punch of his own. Tagata activated his quirk and Goku's fist passed straight through the older boy. Damn it, said Goku as Tagata maneuvered behind him and aimed to kick Goku in the back. Goku backflipped over Tagata and while in the air fired a volley of ki blasts. A plume of dust was thrown into the air where Tagata had been standing. Goku landed and mistakenly assumed he had beaten Tagata as he could no longer sense his ki. He soon realized his mistake as he received a blow to the chin from below his feet. With that, Goku reverted to his base form. He hadn't been knocked out, but he had been defeated. Really threw me for a doozy there, pal. Those blasts of yours are strong and fast, Tagata complimented his opponent. Clearly not that good considering not one of them hit you, Goku replied in slight annoyance as he got off the floor. You win fair and square. By this point the rest of the class was coming too. Well, my quirk needed a lot of training to get it to where it is now. All of you can hear this. My quirk is permeation and I can make my body completely intangible, allowing me to pass through literally everything or for things to pass through me. However, the massive downside to this is that when I become intangible, everything passes through me. I can't see, hear, taste, touch or smell, and oxygen passes right through my body. Goku had his info. That's why I couldn't sense your ki. It passes through you when you activate your quirk, Goku said. Bingo, it's not a powerful quirk, but I made it powerful through the use of the work studies and training. So, one that note, I highly recommend the work studies to any of you who are offered one. It's great experience for hero work but also for quirk training. That was all Goku needed to hear. While Nijire, Amajiki and Aizawa requested Tagata put on some clothes, many thoughts went through Goku's mind. If he would get an offer for work study. Whether he could master his new form that came from happiness. One thing was for sure though. Although All for One was in prison, Shigaraki and the League of Villains were still out there. Plus, with no symbol of peace, crime was guaranteed to rise with villains in the shadows making their presence known. Goku had to get stronger to protect people, he just had to. The future awaits. An unexpected offer. So, you're going to be taking on a work study with Sir Knight IEH Deku? Asked Goku. Class 1A was currently in their dorm and just relaxing. They buzzed with excitement at the prospect of work studies but also at improving themselves. The training match with Mirio Tagata a couple of days ago had revealed the truth to them. They still needed more training and to keep their arrogance under control. Sure, they had defeated villains, but they had been completely defeated by a third year. Then again, that third year was a member of UA's Big Three, so it wasn't entirely unexpected. Yeah, Tagata helped me out. It went poorly at first but Night Eye accepted me. Izuku Midoriya, known to a select few as Deku, enthusiastically replied. Then he whispered something to Goku so that no one else would hear, just not as All Might's successor. Goku grimaced. Night Eye had once been All Might's sidekick, but apparently the two had a massive falling out a few years ago, shortly after All Might's major injury. I'm assuming Night Eye believes Tagada should have one for all? Goku asked. Deku's sad nod was all the confirmation he needed. Ignore him. Prove that you are worthy regardless of what he says. If All Might thinks you're worthy, then trust him. And if it's any consolidation, I think you're perfect for carrying on the one for all legacy. Goku placed his hand on Deku's shoulder and winked. Deku gave a grateful smile. No way. Kirishima, you got a work study with Fat Gum? Cried Denki Kaminari. Way to go, man. Cheers, bro. Just hope I can impress him, Eiichiro Kirishima replied with a small lack of confidence. Other members of the class came to congratulate him, but it was the congratulations from Mina Ishido that inspired Kirishima to act more confident. It was a fleeting feeling, but it was nice to see. Hey Uraraka. Sue, I've got great news. Ryukyu would like to invite you to her agency for your work study. You'll be working with me. Came the sudden voice of Nijire Hato, who had apparently shown up at the dorm just to relay this message. The two girls looked ecstatic and honored to be requested. Goku and Deku had observed both of these events the entire time. Have you not received an offer yet, Goku? Asked Kyokujiro as she snuck up on the two. Deku jumped in surprise, but Goku just smirked and turned to face her. If you were trying to sneak up on me, you failed miserably, Goku joked, and Jiro rolled her eyes. Now to answer your question. No, I haven't. Not yet. Though at this rate I doubt I will receive one. Despite his outwards expression suggesting that Goku wasn't bothered, Jiro knew better. He was really disappointed and upset. Sorry to hear that. I haven't received one either. This is the first time that work studies have been opened up to first years. Maybe the pros and agencies are concerned for our well-being? Jiro suggested, desperately trying to cheer Goku up. It didn't really work. Then to add salt to the wound, Aizawa walked into the common room and up to Tokiyami. Tokiyami, you have received an offer from Hawks. He is highly impressed by your work and would like to further your training, the homeroom teacher informed the boy in question. I would be honored, replied Tokiyami respectfully. Even when presented with exciting news, the avian-headed student spoke in the same tone. Bland, calm and respectful. No surprise there really. Okay, that was a one-off, Jiro nervously said. Goku just sighed in defeat. There's always my third year, he somberly declared before his eyes opened in fear and then narrowed in anger. Deku and Jiro turned to look where he was facing but saw nothing. What are you doing here? Growled Goku. He had now caught the attention of everyone present. What? I'm not allowed to come visit my little brother, mocked Raditz. How you been Kakarot? Don't call me that. You don't deserve to. You lost the right to call me that when you disowned your family. Goku replied with anger in his voice. He had failed to notice he had entered a super state. Don't make me laugh. You can't beat me. You're weak, and you know what makes you weak? Your loyalty to your pathetic friends. You could be so much more if you learned to fend for yourself. Sarcastically replied Raditz. He took pride in tormenting Goku. Who are you really? Raditz is most likely dead. You're not him, Goku retorted as a ki blast began to charge in his right hand. Oh, but I am. I know everything about you. I made some friends when I left home. I reckon you'll meet some of them one day. But for now, know that we will meet again. Till then, brother. With that, Raditz vanished and Goku went to fire the ki blast in rage. Come back, you bastard. He never got the chance as his quirks suddenly shut off and he found himself wrapped up in a strong material. That's enough. I don't know what you think you saw, but I will not tolerate this behavior. Sort it out now. Aizawa reprimanded and Goku finally realized how close he had come to injuring someone. None of you saw him? How? He was right there, Goku cried in confusion. Who was? Asked Mina. You really didn't see him? Asked an emotionally defeated Goku. He stopped struggling and felt Aizawa's scarf loosen. I'm going for a walk. I need to clear my head. Sorry for endangering you all. With that, Goku left the dorm with tears streaming down his face. Jiro attempted to go after him but was held back by Deku, who shook his head sadly. With sad eyes she watched her best friend walk away from the dorm. What's happening to me? Muttered Goku. Goku, I thought it was you. What's up? Came the sudden voice of Bulma Briefs as she ran up to the spiky-haired boy. Not now, Bulma. Not in the mood, replied Goku quickly and rather bluntly. Geez, okay. Just thought I'd let you know that your costume is repaired. I had a lot of work to get through before being able to work on it. I've also drawn up a completely new design which I feel will fit your personality way better. I was hoping you could come by the workshop to approve it, Bulma informed him despite Goku's initial comment. Can't you take a hint? Leave me alone? Goku snapped as he stopped in his path. Bulma felt fear as she became the receiving end of Goku's glare. He quickly moved off again, but this time Bulma didn't follow. I'm sorry, she mumbled before turning around and making her way back to her dorm. She took a final glance at Goku before continuing on her way. Goku didn't even bother to look if she was still there. He just kept walking. He had to clear his head. Some time passed and no one else bothered him. He assumed they were too busy or that they were wary of him. Son Goku. What a pleasant surprise. Just the student I wished to see. Goku showed visible confusion on his face. Who is speaking to him? The voice spoke once more, down here. Goku looked down and saw Principal Nezu with a smile on his face. Oh, Principal Nezu. I didn't notice you there, Goku quickly said before realizing that his comment could be interpreted as an insult. No, I didn't mean it like that. What I mean is. It's quite alright. I do have a matter to speak to you about. Two in fact. Nezu waved off Goku's blunder. If this is about what happened earlier, I am extremely sorry. Something came over me. Goku apologized but Nezu just smiled. Yes. That was serious, but Aizawa told me that you were apparently speaking to someone no one else could see. I'm assuming this individual was the reason for your actions? Nezu sure was perceptive. Then again his quirk was intelligence. Yes. Wait, you believe me? Goku was shocked. I have no reason not to. Villains have crafty ways of getting to people. Should it happen anymore, you should report directly to Aizawa. Is that clear? It was more a command than a question, and Goku knew this. Yes, sir. Very good. Now for the other matter. As you already know, we have opened work studies up to the first years this year. Some of your fellow classmates have already received work study offers. Midoriya, Uraraka, Asui, Kirishima and Tokiyami, I believe. Nezu confirmed and Goku nodded in agreement. Yes, sir. Only 5 members of our class have received offers. Goku's sadness was still very much present. Nezu simply smirked. Actually, it's 6, he quickly said. Is it? I don't mean to be rude, but you mentioned 5 students, Goku pointed out, but was greeted by a chuckle from Nezu. You're not being rude, and you would be forgiven for pointing it out. 6 students have been given offers. The 5 mentioned and one more? Nezu started before smirking knowingly at Goku. You. Me? Asked a shocked Goku. Why didn't Mr. Aizawa mention it earlier? Aizawa hasn't been informed about yours. In fact, it happened just after Aizawa received news about Tokiyami's offer. After Aizawa informed me of your outburst, I decided it would be best if I informed you face to face. Want to know who has taken a keen interest in you? I must say it surprised me greatly. Yes, please. Goku was brimming with excitement and all his anger and sadness from before had disappeared. Nezu's intended result. Very well. She is very headstrong and confident. Much like you, she gets a kick out of a challenge, doesn't back down and values strength. This is also the first time she has taken on a student. Oh, and she isn't a part of an agency or any other hero institution. Nezu's words made Goku's heart beat faster than ever before as adrenaline began to hit in. Nezu finally decided that he had had enough fun. Son Goku, it is my honor to announce that your work study will be with a high-ranked pro hero. You will be working and training under the strength of one. The rabbit hero. Mirko, you'll be having your work study with her? So cool, exclaimed Deku in excitement. I know, right? I didn't expect it at all. I wonder what she saw in me, Goku pondered before his face lit up with happiness. I'm just happy I'm going on a work study. After Principal Nezu had told Goku about Mirko's interest in him, the teen had been brimming with anticipation and excitement. As soon as he got back to the dorms, he apologized once more for his outburst earlier and told the students who themselves had received an offer. I start from tomorrow. It's gonna be fun. Well, this is where I was meant to meet her. It's definitely 9 o'clock. Goku pulled out his phone just to double-check the time before putting it back in his bag. Wonder where she is. He didn't have to wait long before he heard the cries of a man near him. You're insane. Get away from me. The man screamed in fear and anger. Goku turned in confusion only for the man, clearly a criminal, notice him and show a panicked grin on his face. Goku shrugged and thought he'd indulge a little in some fun. The man tackled him to the ground and slammed his head into the ground to disorient him. A trickle of blood appeared on Goku's forehead, but he didn't even grunt in pain. He had felt worse. I'm warning you, stay back or this kid gets it, threatened the criminal as he wrapped his left arm around Goku's neck and held his right arm to his head level. His hand began to morph. His quirk appeared to have something to do with irons. What are you going to do? Smooth out his face, grinned his attacker, and Goku finally realized why Mirko had been late. She'd been dealing with this idiot. Hey, wait a minute. You're that Goku kid, aren't ya? Ha, this is great. Mirko began to laugh hysterically and Goku chuckled as well. The crook just looked between the two in confusion. What the? I mean it. This kid will get it, he cried in frustration, only feel his grip on Goku loosen. His anger quickly turned back to fear as he saw Goku prying his arm off his neck with little effort. Mirko was standing with her arms folded in a massive grin in triumph. She was watching these events unfold with glee. Goku turned to face the criminal, who stumbled back and began to tremble. Goku, for the fun of it, powered up to Super Ascended and began to approach the crook, who held his arm to keep Goku away. Goku didn't even touch him and the criminal's eyes lolled back in his head and he passed out. Really? That easy? Could have at least put up a fight? Goku rolled his eyes and powered down only to receive a smack on the back from Mirko. Not bad, Spikes. I was toying around with this guy. Not even a warm-up, Mirko groaned in annoyance before noticing a police car approaching. Come on. Let's ditch this borefest. With that, Mirko shot off and Goku was quick to follow. Being in his hero costume made using his quirk easier, and since he was seen with Mirko, people just assumed he was a sidekick or something, which opened up more questions. The pair didn't bother to ponder these thoughts and continued on their way. Eventually Mirko skidded to a stop and began to lean on a wall. Goku arrived not long after, and after landing on the ground he walked over to her. It's an honor to be working alongside you, ma'am. I promise to give this work study my all and prove my strength, Goku started as he bowed. Yeah, whatever, Mirko interrupted him with a bored wave. She pushed off the wall and stood up straight. She stretched out and Goku watched with a raised eyebrow. Long story short, Spikes, you're like really strong. And if you know anything about me, then you know I value strength a lot. It's how I got to where I am. However, I can't help but notice that you tend to work with others. In my opinion, teamwork is a waste of time. It makes out that you're relying on the strength of others and not your own strength. Ever noticed how you're at your strongest when no one is able to help? Mirko made a good point there. Goku had broken his limits multiple times without the help of others. Kaioken X20, his super state, Super Ascended, and technically even his new unnamed form, which first properly manifested against All for One. I'll take your silence as a yes, it's impressive Spikes. After hearing about you and getting some info from pros that have seen you in action, my interest was piqued. That's why when I found out about you first years being entered in work studies I just had to act. I may have no agency or any of that crap, but I don't need it. I got here alone, and it will stay that way. However, I made an exception just for you. So, you ready to get stronger and outclass everyone? Mirko was getting pumped up and that got Goku pumped up. Hell yeah. Let's do this, Goku shouted with enthusiasm and Mirko smirked approvingly. I like this kid. He's got guts, she thought to herself before a frown appeared on her face. Goku opened his eyes in confusion and looked around him before wiping the still present blood from his forehead, assuming that was what Mirko was staring at. Alright, I get the whole martial arts thing, but you just look like a kid playing dress up, Mirko facepalmed in annoyance. Goku looked at his costume and became slightly disheartened. Really, I've only just got it updated, he sighed. Geez. Doesn't look like much of an update. You need something that screams you. While those colors suit you, maybe try a new color palette. Surely you know someone who can design a better costume, Mirko admitted. A light bulb went off in Goku's head as he remembered what Bulma had been trying to tell him just before he had snapped at her the day before. Something about a new costume design that she thought would really make him look more like a hero. Actually, I do. You don't mind if I call her, do you? Goku asked only for Mirko to roll her eyes in annoyance. Lesson 1. You don't need to ask me crap. You want to call someone, you call them. You want to have something to eat, you get something to eat. Just make sure to get me something, Mirko grinned again. Final part of this lesson is simple. Want to take down a villain or some low-level crook? You're more than welcome to. As long as I don't get to them first. Goku wasn't entirely sure whether that was a friendly challenge or not but took it as such. Like that's gonna happen, he replied with a cocky grin receiving a laugh from Mirko. Knew I was gonna like you. Get your call done then we're off, she remarked before closing her eyes and leaning on the wall. Much like Goku, she was itching for some action. Goku took his phone from his bag and selected Bulma from his contacts. The phone began to ring for a couple of seconds before she picked up. Hey Goku. How may I be of service? Hi Bulma. I just wanted to ask something but first I owe you an apology for yesterday. I shouldn't have snapped at you. I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I figured as much. Apology accepted. I hope you're feeling more like yourself today. Anyway, you had a request for me? Yeah, you mentioned a new costume design for me. Well, I was wondering if you could make it for me. I know I've only had the updated version since the provisional license exam, but I'd like to see what you got for me. You got the go-ahead. Really? You mean it? I won't disappoint. When would you like it for? Goku glanced over to Mirko who had opened her eyes and had been listening to the entire conversation. Her rabbit ears weren't for show, she shrugged. Some point within this week if possible. I don't want to put too much pressure on you like last time. Huh. I love the pressure almost as much as I love our chats. Just for you I'll start work on it right now and have it to you within 3 days. Have fun on your work study. Go get those villains. You bet. Thanks, Bulma. See you around. With that the conversation was over and Goku placed his phone, now turned off to minimize distractions, back into his bag. He turned to face Mirko who was still leaning against the wall. She had a knowing grin on her face. What? Asked Goku but Mirko just smirked, closed her eyes and shrugged. She pushed herself off the wall and walked on over to the teen. Nothing. Let's go, she replied before sprinting off into the city. Goku followed suit and flew after her. By the time he properly caught up she had already dispatched a group of thugs attempting to rob a bank. One of the most stereotypical crimes. Too slow Spikes. You even trying? The heroine gloated as she knocked out the last criminal. Goku just stood there in shock at how quickly she had dispatched them. Then they both heard sirens. Without thinking Goku blasted off towards them and Mirko rushed after him. I thought this was a challenge. Where's all your bravado? Called Goku sarcastically. Mirko grinned. He had gotten her adrenaline going and as a result she had begun to speed up. Goku noticed this and made sure to speed up himself. The pair of them arrived at the same time to see two criminals tearing up the street and enjoying every moment of it. Goku went to Super and rocketed towards the two. He was confident he would take them down. Then, to his utter surprise, Mirko launched off a wall and tackled both criminals to the ground. Sorry kid. Still too slow, she shouted before jumping back as the crooks used their quirks. The hell? You're just two lowlifes. No way should your quirks be that strong. Goku was seeing it as well now and immediately urged all civilians to move somewhere safer. One of the criminals was covered completely in metal and was beginning to form weapons out of his hands while the other began to transform into different animals. Though for the animal quirk user something was clearly up. His transformations looked like animals that had gone through a massive evolution and looked far more humanoid. His tiger form, for example, had spikes protruding from his knuckles as well as his shoulders. This trigger stuff is great. We're unstoppable, roared the animal shifter before lunging at Mirko. The rabbit heroine jumped out of the way with ease but was hit by the same attacker, albeit now in the form of a humanoid elephant. After crashing into a building, Mirko jumped to her feet and sprang into action. She had a massive grin on her face. She finally had a real challenge. Though she did make sure of one thing. Spikes. These morons are juiced up on a quirk enhancement drug called Trigger. Sure, it's dangerous but I think it's a blast. It's a great challenge. Have fun with Metalhead, she informed Goku before laughing in excitement as she dealt with her opponent. Goku stood with slight confusion before being snapped out of his trance by the same metal user Mirko had just mentioned. With a hammer-morphed hand, the criminal slammed the ground where Goku was standing. With little ease, the teen had dodged out of the way and made his way behind the new powerhouse. If she says I should enjoy myself, then that's exactly what I'm going to do, he cried as his aura sprung to life and he charged his opponent, who swung his right arm around to hit him. Goku ducked under it and punched the criminal square in the chest. Both fighters grunted in pain. The criminal, for there was now a fist-shaped dent in his chest, and Goku, for he had just punched metal. Enhanced metal, to be more precise. "You little shit," growled the villain, and in the confusion he grabbed Goku by the head his left hand and began to squeeze. Not about to let this wannabe hero off easy, he morphed his right arm into a blade and lifted it back to impale Goku. Goku simply roared as he powered up to Super Ascended, his new massive power output making it almost impossible for the villain to keep a hold of him. With the grip on his head loosened, Goku swung his right leg up and caught the villain in the chin. Sure, he may have just broken his foot, but it was nothing Recovery Girl couldn't heal. The villain's head snapped back and he stumbled away from Goku, dropping him in the process. Goku gave him but a second to compose himself before barraging him with ki blasts, which began to blast the metal off his body. The villain eventually dropped to one knee and began to pant heavily as he formed more metal around his body. "I'm nearly finished, Spikes, you're gonna lose again," came the voice of Mirko as she was finishing her own battle. Goku grinned and decided to end his battle first. He quickly depowered to his base form and raised both arms above his head with both palms open. He began to draw from the ki of all living things, but only enough for his attack. When his charging was complete, he closed his right hand and focused the energy into that one hand. By this point the metal villain had regained his bearings, and while he was still forming more metal around him, he saw the opportunity to attack. He charged and Goku powered up to Ascended. Instead of grabbing his young opponent, the metal villain stumbled forward and crashed to the ground while Goku blasted over towards Mirko and delivered a swift, yet powerful, roundhouse kick to her opponent. Mirko's opponent was sent careening into Goku's and lay atop of him. Both were weak and struggling to get up, most likely a result of the trigger's effects wearing off. "He was mine," complained Mirko. "I thought this was a competition," replied Goku with a smirk before he threw his attack. Spirit Bomb. The ball of ki rapidly approached the two villains who were struggling to move. Their efforts were in vain as the attack connected with them and they were engulfed. The Spirit Bomb shot skywards, per Goku's command, and exploded, leaving the two defeated and unconscious villains to fall to the ground. "Guess they weren't all evil," Goku shrugged before turning to Mirko, who had watched the entire event unfold with awe. She was impressed once more. "Sorry, did I take your win?" "Hell, yeah you did." Mirko laughed before punching Goku in the shoulder jokingly, first person to do that like ever. "Don't expect it to happen all the time though." Goku laughed but suddenly pushed Mirko out of the way. In the crowd he had noticed someone point a gun at her. The bullet caught him straight in the upper left of his chest. Something fell off immediately. Goku depowered to his base form but not at will. He couldn't sense Mirko's ki signature or any ki for that matter. He glanced at the man who began to sweat buckets. He must have been a third man. The man threw the gun to the ground and sprinted off. Goku moved to fly after him but felt nothing. He tried to fire a ki blast, but nothing happened. "What are you waiting for, Spikes? I'll go after him if you won't," joked Mirko, but Goku's look of panic caused her to stop messing around. "Kid, what's wrong?" "I can't use my quirk, it won't work," cried Goku as he looked Mirko in the eyes. She saw so many things. Sadness, anger, guilt, and most importantly fear. He was worried about something that could happen now his quirk had vanished. "Calm down, Goku. It's probably temporary," she comforted him before noticing a red dart-like object on the floor. She glanced to see the criminal bolting for it. She had to act fast. "Listen to me. I'm going after that guy. Pick up that red dart thing. We'll get it examined by someone. You with me, Spikes? Don't go soft now." "Okay. Go get him." Mirko nodded and sprinted after her target. It didn't take her long to catch up and take him into custody. Yet throughout it all one thought passed through her mind. What the hell did the kid get shot with? Enemy within. I'm telling you. The kid was terrified. Whatever was in that bullet cancelled out his quirk. The moment he realized something set him off. He froze and panic set in, Mirko said as she explained the events that had transpired. She was currently talking to police officers who had arrived on the scene as well as other pros. So, to her they were annoyances. Yeah right. What's that Goku kid got to be scared of? He's so strong no one would dare threaten him. Besides a bullet that cancels quirks. If that was on the street we would have heard whispers of it by now, replied one of the lesser-known pros sarcastically. Why was he lesser-known? Mirko didn't recognize him as a challenge. You don't believe me? Figures that a weakling like you can't see the bigger picture. I know what I saw. A red dart-like bullet which hit the kid. As I gave chase he picked it up, per my request. Now here we are. He's been sent back to Uo with no sign of his quirk. Hopefully it's temporary. He has way too much potential, Mirko defended as she crossed her arms and scowled at this particular pro. One of the officers was taking notes throughout. A drug that does the opposite of trigger. This could have severe repercussions should more of it enter society, admitted the officer with a slight shudder. His comment annoyed the pro from before. You actually believe that? Not like it'll be hard to stop. Besides the effects are temporary, as Mirko here says. Why should we be war? He never got the chance to finish. Mirko swept him off his feet and he collapsed onto the ground. As he groaned in pain he took note of Mirko towering over him, her red eyes burning bright. You idiot. We should worry because if whoever is manufacturing this drug perfects the formula, then anyone hit with it could lose their quirk. Permanently, she growled and the hero she was speaking to shuddered in fear. Knowing she had gotten her point across, Mirko turned around and walked off. I'm done here. You got your info. As soon as you learn more about the drug and who manufactures it, notify me immediately. I want some payback. Then she took off. She didn't have any plans really. Though there was one person she wished to check up on. Though that could wait till tomorrow. Goku sighed in relief. It had been nearly a whole day before his quirk re-emerged. Boy was he happy. Not having a quirk wasn't the problem. It was knowing who he wouldn't be able to stop without his quirk. So Kakarot, how did you like the little test run of that new drug? Goku jumped off his bed and whipped around to see Raditz standing at his window. The body of the younger boy tensed as Raditz opened the window and climbed into the room. Get out. Now, warned Goku as entered his ascended state. He wasn't taking any chances. What's the matter? I can't visit my little brother. Raditz remarked with sarcastically, despite what happened you're going straight into that form. Aren't you worried you might lose control? After all, it has been a whole day since your quirk was initially cancelled out. He may be back now, but bodies can adapt quickly to every situation. Goku had him pinned against the wall with his left arm before he knew what was happening. Raditz coughed and grinned. The two brothers were now eye level and Goku's glare was beginning to burn into Raditz's soul, or that's how it felt. I said, get out, growled Goku as he charged a ki blast in his free hand. The reaction that followed was entirely unexpected. Raditz started laughing. That's more like it, show me the rage you're so famous for. For a moment Goku faltered, allowing Raditz to headbutt him and pin him to the wall on the other side of the room. It was Goku's turn to grunt now. On instinct he began to struggle but was at a loss for words when, even in Super Ascended, he was unable to break free from Raditz's grasp. Where's all your bravado, Kakarot? Mocked Raditz before grabbing the back of Goku's head and slamming his face into the floor. He then locked Goku's arms behind his back and kept him on the ground with his knee. You see now why you'll always be weak. You'll never enjoy the rush the way I enjoy it. The suffering, the death, the pain and pleasure. It's wonderful. Sure, you've killed but you never enjoyed doing it. One day I hope you will. That's when you'll see the world the way I see it. A world of weaklings where only the strong can rule. I'll never be like you, shouted Goku in rage as his struggling increased. Chuckling to himself, Raditz leant down to Goku's ear and whispered in it. No, you'll be worse. With that the older brother got off Goku and proceeded to make his way back to the window he had entered from. It was still open. Goku got to his feet quickly and held his right hand out to fire a ki blast. Raditz turned his head to the side and gave a sinister smile. Don't bother. Surely by now you've realized I'm not actually here. This is all in your head. With that he climbed out the window and vanished. Goku stared after him. Only when there was a knock on the door did he snap out of his daze. Immediately powering down and quickly closing the window, Goku opened the door to find Jiro outside. Goku, what the hell happened? There was shouting and banging. We thought you had been attacked, she said in panic. She entered the room and scanned the area. Something had definitely happened, and she knew it. Nothing happened, Kyoka. Goku assured her with wavering confidence. She turned to face him and narrowed her eyes. He was lying. How did she know? I can hear your heartbeat. You're lying, she said, catching Goku by surprise. It was here that he noticed one of her earphone jacks was plugged into the ground at his feet. He sighed. She could hear the vibrations of his heart. It's complicated. Not sure how to describe it. He finally relented and sat down on his bed. Jiro took her seat next to him and turned her head so she could see his expressions. She decided to trust him this time. I'm listening. You can tell me, she assured, and Goku gave a sad smile. He breathed in heavily before breathing out again just as heavily. Then he began. I keep seeing my older brother. What you heard earlier was an encounter with him. I thought at first it was him using some sort of cloaking device that only I could see, but it turns out it's all in my head. I think he's some sort of entity for my pain, loss and guilt. The reason I lost the fight this time, if it can even be called a fight, is because he wasn't there. Due to being a hallucination, his power can be whatever he wants it to be. Ascended didn't stand a chance and I was too angry to use my new form. I think I'm losing it. Jiro listened intensely. If what Goku said was true, then something was eating away at him. His quirk worked based on emotions and feelings. Pain, loss and guilt fell under the latter. Three things he pushed to the side were rearing their head in the form of his older brother. After some pondering, Jiro finally spoke. Goku, you're not alone. I'm here for you. I've told you this so many times now. Why are you still keeping things from me? She asked. She was angry at him yet sympathetic at the same time. Alas, she needed to get the frustration out of her system. Kyoka, you don't get it. You got your parents to confide in. I literally have no one like that. My only sibling hated me and is either dead or wants nothing to do with me. Besides, why should I bother anyone else with this? Your comfort will just slow me down. That set her off. I beg your pardon. We'll slow you down. I'm sorry we're suddenly a burden to you. Not everyone can be born as powerful as you. You just see us as weaklings, don't you? She was raising her voice now and stood up in anger. This was something that Goku had never seen before. Well, no, I never said that, Kyoka. You're just not as strong as me. I mean, I didn't reach Kaioken times 20, my super state or super ascended with the help of others, did I? That was all me, Goku said naively. What happened next was unforeseen. Jiro slapped Goku straight across the face. His head whipped to the side and his eyes widened in pure shock. His face began to sting from how hard it was hit. How dare you? Jiro gritted her teeth in anger. She was livid. The only time Goku had seen anger to this degree was when he had watched the live footage of him turning super for the first ever time. It wasn't a nice sight. If I recall, you pushed your body to its limits to fight the Nomu for our class. Bakugo, despite being a prick, essentially helped you access your super state. And let's not forget what happened when you entered Super Ascended. Cell was torturing and was going to kill me. Also, I'm pretty sure I suggested what you should do with your new form. So how dare you declare that you got all this power by yourself? She was shaking in rage and had tears forming in her eyes. Goku's own rage boiled and he unknowingly transformed into his ascended form. You think I'm going to credit you weaklings for it? This is my power, not yours. Stop pretending you're not jealous of me. Compared to my quirk, yours is nothing and you know it. You've never had the drive to get stronger. Go lose everyone you've ever cared about and then you can call me out. He roared in response with his aura blaring to life. The force of it flung Jiro across the room and against the wall. She gasped in pain as her eyes went wide and the tears fell. Goku's glare quickly vanished as he realized what he had done. He reverted to his base form and moved to help Jiro up. Get off me, she snarled as she batted his hand away. Kyoko, listen to me, I didn't mean to. Goku was lost for words. Nothing he could think of would truly show how he felt in that moment. Spikes, the hell's going on in here? Came the sudden voice of Mirko. She had shown up to visit him, yet upon hearing an argument and some sort of explosion, rushed up to Goku's room. After asking which one it was and which floor that is. Needless to say, she was expecting what she came across. He was right. I'm worse, was all Goku could whisper before grabbing his hero costume and bolting out of his room past Mirko, who gave one last glimpse to Jiro before going after him. One thing she noticed was the tears streaming down his face. She needed to get to the bottom of this and fast. Jiro was left alone in Goku's room with several members of her class peeking in to see if she was okay. All they saw was Jiro sitting with her knees up and her face against them. Her eyes were clenched shut and her crying could be heard. The friendship between her and Goku had been fractured. She had no idea what to do. Time to fight. Spikes, the hell's gotten into you? What was that all about back there? Shouted Mirko as she rushed after Goku, who was attempting to get as far away as possible. He couldn't believe what he had done. Leave me alone, Mirko. I'm warning you. He yelled in response, causing something in Mirko to ignite. Her adrenaline began to pump, and her speed increased as a result. It didn't take long for her to catch up to Goku. Fine. We'll settle this the only way we know how. We fight, she said, and Goku stopped dead in his tracks. He looked at her like she had said something crazy. She crossed her arms and looked dead serious, however. What, right here? Asked the boy, and she shook her head. Nah. Let's go to one of your training areas. Site Gamma, isn't it? She asked before walking away. Yeah, I guess. You do know where you're going, don't you? Goku asked as he hurried after her. There was no response. In no time he had his answer because they arrived at Site Gamma and entered immediately. Within moments of setting foot in the training area, Mirko was upon him. Goku dodged the initial blow, but each blow after connected. He received blows all over his body. It was here that his anger began to boil, and he screamed in rage. However, instead of transforming into his super state, he instead did something he hadn't done in a while. Kaioken times 20. The red aura of his power multiplier erupted out and blasted Mirko high into the air. She performed a somersault and landed only to feel the force of Goku's power in the immediate vicinity. Damn, he's playing dangerously. I've heard of this move from Nezu and his other teachers. Can't let him destroy his own body, she thought to herself as she shot from where she was standing. Goku's glare met her eyes and she shuddered slightly. A rare feat indeed. Goku pulled his right arm back and opened his palm. Then he shot it forward and a flurry of huge ki blasts shot towards Mirko. The pro weaved past them effortlessly. Or would have had they not stopped suddenly midair. They positioned around her and trapped her. Mirko darted her eyes around to figure out what was going on. This one's courtesy of an old friend of mine, son of a villain who became a hero. Goku announced before swinging his arms down. Hellzone grenade. The orbs began to spin around Mirko and changed from yellow to purple. Inevitably they began to rain down on the heroine, who received the onslaught from every direction. A blinding light filled the area from the explosion, with Goku covering his eye. Once the light subsided, Goku uncovered his eyes and looked at where he expected Mirko to be. Instead he saw nothing. Wait, did I just? He was fearing the worst, you wish? Cried Mirko from above. Goku snapped his head up in shock. Mirko raised her right leg to head height and swung it down in an axe motion with all her strength. The heel of her foot collided with the back of Goku's head and he was smashed into the ground. From where his face collided with the concrete sprayed blood. Mirko bounced off of him and landed not too far from his seemingly unconscious body. She began to approach when he slowly started to stand up. It wasn't that part that concerned Mirko. It was the golden aura that was beginning to emanate from him. Goku's eyes snapped up and he grit his teeth. His body tensed and the ground began to crack. Then his anger exploded. He transformed straight into Super Ascended, blasting towards Mirko immediately. She never stood a chance. Goku grasped her face in his right hand and slammed her into the ground. Instead of leaving it there, he proceeded to fly forward, making sure to keep her pinned to the ground. She was being dragged across the floor. Goku then swung his right arm up and flung Mirko into one of the buildings. She rocketed through not one, not two, not even three. She crashed through 6 buildings before being able to get her bearings. Her head was bleeding, and she had cuts from the glass. This is getting good, Spikes. I haven't had this much fun in ages, she announced out loud. Her voice led Goku straight to her. Then again he was tracking her key signature anyway. That makes one of us, he growled as he landed a few meters behind her. She immediately turned to face him and held a grin on her face. Goku's face tensed in anger at her reaction. Stop enjoying this. Why? This is turning out better than I thought. I knew I was right. You don't need a team to grow stronger. Look at you, can you feel it? She asked, thinking her actions had caused this. How wrong she was. Goku made sure to tell her that. I didn't get this strong alone. Sure, this is still my strength and I don't need to rely on anyone really, but my friends helped get me this far. My best friend hates me now because of your stupid teaching. I hurt her because of you and because of my fucking brother. Goku roared before zooming towards his new mentor. Mirko went wide-eyed at what he had said but acted quickly all the same. When Goku threw a punch, she caught it in her right hand. Wincing in pain, she hit Goku in the side of the head with a cross, temporarily disorientating him. This allowed her to drop him to the ground. I need to be careful with this attack. One wrong move and the kid is dead. Mirko mounted Goku's head and gripped it tightly with her legs. As Goku tried to pry her off, to no avail, she began to twist her body and pulled with all her superhuman leg strength. Mirko held back slightly so not to rip Goku's head straight off and slammed his body into the ground, face first. Leaping off, she immediately pinned him to the ground with his arms behind his back. Just to make a point, she began to bend them in a way they weren't supposed to bend. Ready to give up now and talk, kid? Asked Mirko rather arrogantly. Goku snarled but eventually relaxed. She noticed the change and only got off him when he returned to his base form. He sat up and turned around. I haven't been well recently. I've been really on edge. I keep seeing my older brother but I'm starting to think it's all in my head. Goku spilled everything and Mirko listened. The kid was going through a lot. So your friend came to check on you and the two of you had a massive argument. That makes sense, she realized as she sat down next to him and leaned forward to see his face, which was hunched over. Nothing to be ashamed of, kid. Yeah, but she's my best friend and I hurt her. What if she doesn't forgive me? He asked in despair. Like hell she won't, snorted the heroine. That girl had forgiven you the moment you realized what you had done. Look, I'm not good at the friendship stuff but I'll tell you this. You need to go up to her and apologize. Strength isn't just how hard you can hit. It's about being strong enough to accept when you're wrong. Weird hearing it from you. Goku gave a soft chuckle with Mirko laughing in response. She wrapped her arm around him and gave his shoulder a firm squeeze. Guess I learned something from you after all. Only known each other 2 days and you've not only gotten stronger but taught me that going solo isn't always the best solution, she admitted with a shrug. Goku smiled at that. Red sparks flew off his body with Mirko taking note. New power coming along? She asked curiously. Goku glanced at her and saw the sparks. He gave a nod. Yeah. A form that can be accessed through happiness. Still working on it, he sighed. You'll get it. Now for the case of your brother. If he's real, ignore him. If he isn't, still ignore him. Villains, both real and invisible, win the moment they make us break our convictions. Don't let him win. She was encouraging. More so than she had ever been in her entire life. It shocked even her. What was it about this kid that made her feel so protective of him? Thanks. I need that. I'll do my best, Goku finally said before standing up with renewed confidence. I need to speak to Kyoka. Mirko stood up and smacked him on the head in jest, forgetting the damage he had received from her. He yelped in pain and Mirko immediately regretted what she had done the moment he smacked her in the back of the head too. The two laughed and winced in pain. Then Mirko remembered what she had originally come to tell him. By the way, I've had some people analyze the dart you were shot with. They reckon it can cancel Quirks out but is only in the prototype stage. Although it's bad, they're hoping it shows up again so they can get another sample. I'll keep you posted, she explained and Goku nodded. Thanks, I want to help take down whoever is manufacturing it, he resolved, and Mirko smirked. Great to hear. I expect nothing less. Go get yourself to the infirmary. You need to be healed up, she ordered and Goku turned to walk away. When he didn't hear her footsteps behind him he turned around with a look of confusion. Aren't you coming? He asked. And be kissed by the old woman? Nah. I'll heal naturally, thank you, she belted. The two laughed again and Goku waved goodbye for running for the exit. As Mirko watched him go she gave a soft smile. Not bad, kiddo. Not bad at all.